Well, a warm welcome, beg your pardon, to Scarborough for County Cup third round coverage. Somerset 45 for 1 in the 6th over here against Yorkshire, with a quarter-final spot up for grabs. We've already seen Bex Odgers go for 24 off 16, caught by Amelia Oliver off Beth Langston. Sophie Luff and Ruby Davis are out there batting, and Beth Langston is on for a second over, having just taken that wicket in her first. Langston here back of a length and ramped almost over the head of slip. I think there was a hand on it from Campbell, but not enough to take it. Would have been a very tough catch running back, and they managed to scramble back for slightly fortunate 2 to Davis, who got in the position to ramp. I think it was a slower ball from Langston, seeing that Davis had gone to do so. It was almost a really impressive tumbling effort. Apologies for being a little late with you, wherever you are across the world for this one. Yours truly, Michael McCann, joined by former England skipper Dr. Jane Powell. Still just about in the power play here, the last few balls of it. So that's flashed away out to deep cover for 1. Davis on to 13 with that shot. Brings on to strike Sophie Luff, who has 10. Luff, who is without a doubt the prized wicket in this Somerset batting lineup. She's having a magnificent season, particularly in T20 cricket. Flicked away out to deep square leg. Luff will get just the 1.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, Luff has played a great, you know, it's looking like, well, Luff has not scored as quickly as Odgers or as Davis, but, you know, it may well be that she's there to play that anchor role and for the others to come in and play their shots freely, knowing that at the right time Luff can go as well.
Comes down the track and got herself in all sorts of a tangle there. Davis kind of walking at the ball from Langston. Outside edge drops just short of point, so it's another great probing over by Beth Langston, and the power play is done then. So 53 for 1 off 6, and of course you've missed most of that power play, so to just slightly catch you up with the rhythms of how that has gone. Somerset was sitting pretty. They were 34 without loss after 3, but Yorkshire have pulled it back slightly more in those last 3 overs, particularly thanks to some good bowling from Langston. She's conceded just 12 from 12 balls that she's bowled in the power play, and she's picked up a wicket.
Yeah, and both those half chances went to Amy Campbell in that over, and she got a hand to both of them, and she'll be disappointed because she is a good fielder and she can take those catches, but they just deluded her, so she'll be a bit disappointed with that.
Yeah, she's going to have surgery on the horribly dislocated finger, Amy Campbell, on the pinky finger of her left hand, so that's not been fun to deal with. This is Sarah Glenn, and I mentioned before that Luff likes to run down the track to the spinners, and she does exactly that their first ball. That's classic Sophie Luff, turns it into a half volley. That is a splendid shot, and this is something she likes to do a lot in T20 cricket, Luff. She gets a boundary earlier in the over to put the bowler under pressure. So I'm not that surprised that we've seen her charge first ball. Now mid-off has gone back to long off. Great contest here. Sarah Glenn, England international, on in just her 3rd game for Yorkshire. Is Luff this time baseball style, bats it down the ground. Nicely stopped by Glenn off her own bowling. Luff in the blast this season, 250 runs at an average just above 50 and a strike rate of 151 per 100 balls. No wonder that's got a 100 deal with the Trent Rockets. It's Luff down the track this time. Nicely stopped by Campbell in a short mid-wicket.
She's a class player, you know. Every time I see Sophie Luff, I think, you know, she's probably one of the most unlucky domestic players in the country.
Apologies for the background buzzing you might be picking up on the stream. Just a couple of technical gremlins. We're still ironing out as Luff comes down the track again. She'll get 1 down to long on. And she's also great proof that, particularly in this era of women's domestic cricket moving fully professional, as it has done steadily across a number of years, of how a player, even well into their 30s, can keep modernising, keep improving. Last 32, and her T20 skills have really come on in more recent times. That's gone. Tried to get a little bit too funky, Odgers, and Sarah Glenn gets herself a first County Cup wicket for Yorkshire. It's in fact Ruby Davis, beg your pardon, who is out. Just trying to ramp it through fine leg, but ends up having the top of the leg stump removed. 58 for 2.
It's always interesting to me when I see players going for the ramps and different shots like that, when this is actually a big ground and all you need to do is look for the gaps in the field. Leave it, just get yourself in before you start trying to play some of these funky shots, especially against the likes of Sarah Glenn. I mean, Sarah Glenn is no mug. If she'd not had injuries, then she would still have been in contention for the current World Cup. And she knows how to bowl against these players who are starting to try and be a bit creative against her. But that's a good wicket from a Yorkshire perspective. 58 for 2 now, from a Somerset perspective. It's I just find it odd when they come out in their pink shirts and then they come out to field and they're all in black. It's one of those counties, isn't it, that just done something different from a batting and a fielding point of view.
Yeah, the black shirt's got the blackbird on the front. This is Glenn. That's a little bit too short.
Pierce the field at mid-wicket for 4 runs.
I beg your pardon. Well, there was me quite calmly thinking that she just hit the sweeper. She'd done anything but. That's a lovely, confident start and a boundary to finish the over. 62 for 2 off 7. It's historically a pitch that has a massive toss bias in favour of winning the toss and batting first. And Somerset called correctly and unsurprisingly chose to have a bat in round 3 of this County Cup. This is the first County Cup game to get started today. There's matches right across the country, but they're all getting going a bit later than us. It's Essex against Gloucestershire, Tier 1 against Tier 2 at Colchester and East Essex CC. That's a 2:30 start at Lady Bay in Nottingham. All Tier 1 clash. Blaze versus Durham. Tier 2 Glamorgan have got chance of an upset. One of the stronger teams in Tier 2. They'll fancy their chances against Hampshire at Newport. It's Derbyshire against Northants. An all Tier 2 clash for a spot in the quarters. And it's Middlesex, one of the stronger teams in Tier 2, hosting Warwickshire at Radlett. Here's Olivia Thomas. Starts with a full bunger that she's got away with slightly. Neat work out that by Amy Campbell keeps it to 1. And then it's Lancashire Thunder, County Cup defending champions, in action against Tier 3 Buckinghamshire. One of the stories of the competition this season, a Tier 3 side managing to get through to the 3rd round. That's at Neston, but all of those games get started at either 2:15 or 2:30. So we're a little bit ahead here.
Olivia Thomas coming on from this P-Zone Park end and drops that one short, and that's just evaded the fielder Claudia Cooper there out on the square boundary, and it's gone for 4 runs.
Well, it's not the easiest boundary to field on. That outfield is a bit undulating, but that is one you'd have probably expected Cooper to stop.
Yeah, Thomas was one of the stars of the show last year in Tier 2, and then she unfortunately has had an injury, and it's taken her a while just to get back into the rhythm, and I think that's quite normal for leg spin young players.
This has got a little bit of something on it, and Glenn will have to go away and chase. Always such a good runner between the wickets. Luff, and so good at making sure that every last run is squeezed from an innings. So that will be a couple more. Yeah, it's only Olivia Thomas's 3rd game this season. She's played a couple in the Blast. She's been fighting to work her way back in, and of course the signing of Sarah Glenn means that there's direct competition in the leg spinner's spot for Yorkshire, but really helps to give a side balance. Of course they're both playing today. More expansive, one of the shots of the day, flat batted cover drive for 4, shot of real authority from Somerset, a beautiful... It's not a great delivery, but it's pounced on beautifully.
Yeah, Niamh Holland just really middled that one. And what's happened is Sophie Luff is still working the ball around, and whoever's come in to join her has gone off like a rocket. And that's a good ploy from Somerset, as that one's hit a little bit more aerially. Just avoids the fielder at fine leg. It runs away down towards the marquee, and they take 2 runs.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning the boundary dimensions. They're going to be enormous in this game. I know what you meant when you said that it's a big ground. I guess what I would gently add as a yes and on top is it's a big ground on one side today because of what part of the square we're on. So if you're hitting towards the Popular Bank and the Pavilion, it's a 60-metre boundary, and it's slightly uphill, that hit as well. But in the other direction, it's a lot better if you're a batter. That's forced off the back foot out to deep cover. Now that is out towards the longer side. Now by contrast, the shorter side towards that west stand is in and around 50 metres, so it's 10 metres shorter. But not just that, but in terms of bang for your buck as a batter, it's actually all downhill, and it's quite a significant slope. So bowling teams are going to have to be really wary of this today in terms of who bowls, where and when, from what end. And it's definitely enough of a difference that as a batter you've got to calculate it in too, for sure.
Yeah, I guess when I say it's a big pitch, I think the angles, when it runs down to the tea room or to the pavilion, that feels very big, and even down to the marquee. But square of the wicket, as you've just quite rightly said, it's not as big.
Yeah, that downhill quite attractive. So for this over, for example, because of that downward slope, Cooper's not going to want to offer any width. I'd imagine Cooper's going to be almost pretty much bowling at the front pad here of Niamh Holland, tactically. And that is the exact spot that Cooper will want to aim for. She's got her 50th wicket for Yorkshire in a first win in 10 games across all competitions for the White Rose when they beat Durham in the One-Day Cup earlier on this week. Gives that one plenty of fight. Briefly wanted a single, Holland, there, and there was definitely not one. Rightly sent back by Luff.
I think you're right, there wasn't one, but there was a misfield. So, you know, you've got to be careful out there from a fielding perspective as well as batting. You know, make sure that you finish everything off.
Down the track this time, it's a better shot, got more clout on it. It has managed to burst through Amelia Oliver, and it will go for 4. So a boundary for Holland, slightly bludgeoned, but there was really good commitment from Holland to come down the pitch here and get to the pitch of the ball, turn it into a half volley. That gives Cooper something to think about.
Yeah, good shot though. I think it could and probably should have been stopped. It went straight through the fielder rather than to the side of.
That's a little too short from Cooper, and that's been flat batted for 4 in the gap. So Somerset really on the charge here, particularly in the form of Holland, who is absolutely flying along here. She is now on to 25 off 10. She's hit 5 of the 10 balls she's faced for 4. Had a very solid blast, Holland. 123 runs at a very healthy strike rate of 123. But that's a dot straight at point.
Yeah, I'm fairly convinced it's tactical that the Somerset batters are coming out and going from ball 1, while Sophie Luff just is the general at the other end, just commanding, you know, just...
I totally with you, although it's interesting because Luff's strike rate in the Blaster season has been through the roof. I mean, I think it's also just she hasn't had much strike. It can happen sometimes. Down the ground, very, very straight. Won't be a catching chance, fielded on the bounce. Will be just 1, despite a slight misfield. There wasn't a second there. So Sophie Luff has faced 17 balls. She's on a run of ball 17 as the 9th over comes to an end. There have been 54 balls bowled. So she has faced 31% of the available deliveries. So she's also just not had a lot of strike, really. You would expect that to steadily change across the innings. I actually remember a similar thing happening with Grace Scrivens in the 2024 Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy final, and I was actually commentating next to Sophie. I've had the pleasure of doing a lot of comms with her. She's a really thoughtful, she's going to be a very good coach when she's not playing. And she said to me, "Did you just calculate that in real time?" And it's like, well, yeah, as a commentator, you end up doing quite a few sums to keep yourself entertained. But it's Luff who's now slightly having that day as an opening bat. She's had a lot of time just standing in the Scarborough sun.
I think she's playing a good innings. You know, I'm not being critical when I say.
Here's Langston to bowl her third over. She's given Yorkshire more control than anybody else. Trying to access that, probably the shortest boundary on the ground, that deep mid-wicket where it runs away quickly down that slope. And it's probably about a 47-metre hit. But that'll be just one.
Yes, whilst ever somebody's going at the other end as well, you've just got to keep rotating and keep the score ticking over. If somebody's hitting fours at regular intervals, let them have the strike.
Bumper, and Luff just trying to help that on its way through third. That's a bit of a party piece Langston's always got up her sleeve. These two know each other very well from across the circuit. And they've actually done their coaching qualifications together over the winter. They're on a player-to-coach qualification pathway, which a few other famous names from across the years are on. This is just nibbled. Luff has done that because she wants two. She's not going to get back for two, though. Sprightly from Cooper to come in and deny her that. The likes of Ailish Cranstone and Alice Davison-Richards at Surrey. Fran Wilson, who was at Somerset, is now Gloucestershire coach, is kind of the beacon for this pathway because she's the first player that's gone and done it. But it's a good idea from the ECB, basically trying to simplify a transition from being a top-level player to being a coach, trying to fast-track that. So that's short, not really timed, kind of muscled out into the offside by Holland.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, when people say to me, if you played, you should be able to coach. They're two different skills, completely different skills, and I think I'm intrigued to see what they're doing on that course, because whilst you can play, it doesn't mean to say that you can help somebody else to play, and that's the whole point of being a coach, is that ability to help somebody else play the game.
This will be another single. It's tougher bowling from this Peasholm Park end like Langston is, because you are defending that shorter boundary as the leg side boundary. But Langston is providing more control than anybody else today for Yorkshire.
Yeah, she's a workhorse as well, you know. It's slightly uphill. She won't worry about that. She'll just keep running in.
Firmly struck, but a game will be just one out to that deeper set boundary, and that's the end of the over. And Somerset, you would say, having won the toss and chosen to bat, will certainly be the more content of the two right now. At the halfway stage, they find themselves 90 for 2, albeit only 5 runs coming off that last over. And I think if you're Somerset from here, if you're offered 180, you're probably actually saying no deal maybe with a strong batting lineup, and you're dreaming of a number that's got a 2.
Yeah, I think 180 is the bare minimum, I would think. You know, you're looking at 200 plus from this position, 2 wickets down. Having had this start, 90 runs off the first 10 and only losing 2 wickets.
Tough task for Olivia Thomas here. She went for 14 off her first over from the Peasholm Park end. She's been swapped to the Trafalgar Square end. And she starts with a horrid delivery that gets the treatment it deserves. Picked up the length so quickly, Holland. She is seeing it like a beach ball down on the sand at Scarborough here at the moment.
Yeah, very short and very hittable, and hit very well by Holland. There's lots of manoeuvring going out, the ball's running out to the marquee. There's a Father's Day event in the marquee today.
So, is that what it is?
Apparently there's
nice.
60-odd fathers coming in to celebrate Father's Day, and what better than to come and watch the women play cricket?
Absolutely. Holland is ticking here. 29 off 15, becomes 33 off 16 after that last shot. She'll get more here, and it has almost deceived the fielder. I mentioned that it can be a bit undulating out there. It almost beat Cooper, and she, to give you a sign, I think, of the fact that was actually a decent stop, she gets applause from Winfield Hill. Just looked like to me that it slightly took a turn to the left after it pitched.
Skidded, didn't
the spin as well from Thomas, I guess, as well. The old watch the spin. Oh, that's a poor ball from Thomas. She's got away with that. Nice quick running from Luff at the non-strikers, demanding that Holland comes through for one, brings Sophie Luff on to strike.
Yeah, well fielded by Ines Blackwell there at fine leg. You know, that restricted the damage that could have come from that last ball. And you can almost see that Olivia Thomas is fighting herself here about trying to get line and length, and she's struggling at the moment.
It's tough when it's only a third senior competitive game this season, so that's shorter. Luff again trying to put Cooper under pressure, but a clean pickup means that's just one. To give you the teams for those maybe a little late to joining us: Yorkshire, Lauren Winfield Hill, Emmy Campbell, Erin Thomas, Alice Clark, Sarah Glenn, Rebecca Duckworth, Ines Blackwell, Olivia Thomas, Beth Langston, Claudie Cooper, and a first Tier 1 appearance for Amelia Oliver, who played a couple of games last season. Oh, that's beautiful flight and dip from Thomas. That's a much better ball from Olivia Thomas. He's had a tough spell so far. He's beaten and gone through absolutely everybody. Yeah. And that will be 2 byes to the total, signalled by your umpire, Andy Exton. Now Mashraf is at square leg. The 100's up for Somerset as well in very good time. Nice story as well with umpire Exton. A very late notice call-up after one of the initial umpires registered to do this one was very unavailable late notice. As that's cut out to deep cover for one. Cooper again making a sprawling stop, and that one definitely moved off slightly undulating outfield. End of the over, 101 for 2, so 11 off that over. And Exmouth, who's a local umpire in the Premier League in this part of the world, got the call up to be here and stand in a women's Tier 1 game for the first time, and has done a quietly excellent job so far, which is all you ever want from an umpire. 3 changes for Yorkshire then from the side that got a first win in 10 when beating Durham in 50 over cricket in midweek by 6 wickets. Maddie Ward, Jess Jonathan and Jess Woolston out. Ward has a niggle, Jonathan unavailable because of being an overseas. Olivia Thomas coming in, Amelia Oliver in for a Tier 1 debut, and Rebecca Duckworth is the third to come in. Somerset, Bex Odgers, Sophie Luff, Neve Holland, Jess Hazel, Katie Jones, Alice Griffiths, Chloe Skelton, Lola Harris, Olivia Barnes, Ruby Davis and Erin Verkusic. 2 changes for Somerset, Erin Verkusic and Ruby Davis in for the unavailable due to being an overseas Annika Leroyd, and Ellie Anderson the other to drop out from the 7-wicket win against Warwickshire on Wednesday, as Blackwell starts a new over with a dot. Very tough time to bowl here for the 17-year-old, who went for 23 from her 2 at the Trafalgar Square end, is now swapped to the Peasholm Park end. Went for 20 off her 2, beg your pardon. That's down the ground for 1, fielded by Oliver. They want 2, but they won't come back.
Yeah, and it's good learning this for the youngsters, and you can see the more experienced players, just the odd word, just the odd look towards them, just the odd non-verbal communication to them, and this is where you grow. You can do all the practice you like in the nets, but this is where you grow as a player.
That's short, nibbled away for 1.
Yeah, and that's a really experienced piece of batting there from Sophie Luff. You know, you can see that she knows she doesn't have to swing the bat. Was that? No, sorry, that was Holland, wasn't it? Looking very similar from this distance, but that was Sophie Luff. I was right. Just working it round into the leg side. Great play.
Opens her shoulders, Holland, more expansive. She was trying to access the gap between square leg and mid-wicket, but it was too close to Campbell at mid-wicket.
We've seen some big heaves from Odgers, Davis and Holland, and at the moment they seem to be getting away with it and keeping the score really very much ticking over, and Luff just works it around.
Well, that's short, and again they want 2, but you're going to struggle to get 2 to that short boundary, enthusiastically fielded by Cooper.
But you know, that's a great lesson to all cricketers. You don't have to keep going the big heave. You can just drop and try and push for 2. You'll put pressure on the fielders. They'll make a mistake. Suddenly 2 becomes 4 because they've made a mistake. So you have to run that first one fast as Blackwell comes in once more.
Well, it's a slow ball, and it was picked up nicely, but it will slightly plug in the deep. Langston does the fielding. Pretty comfortable 2 then. End of the over. 107 for 2 then off 12. Dr. Jane Powell will take a well-earned rest, and all told, in what a very different difficult circumstances to be on bowling, Ines Blackwell's done pretty well there. She's gone for just 6 from the over. So 8 overs left. From here, Somerset should be dreaming of 200, if not very close to, as they chase a 3rd win against Yorkshire, having beaten the White Rose in both the 50 over and T20 formats this season. And settling into the seat to my right is someone who one would always do well to have their company. The fine, sunny Scarborough afternoon to Aaron Vars.
Good afternoon to you as well, Mr. McCann. Good afternoon to everybody tuning in to the coverage as well.
So Sarah Glenn back for more. Down the track and kind of opens that right shoulder out to try and access the short side. Inside out from Luff. It's smart batting in one of the key battles of the day. And that is something that I've mentioned it earlier on in the innings she likes to do. She's almost hyper-aggressive off the first ball of an over, and she's done it again there. She'll go after you early on to put the bowler under pressure. She's done this really successfully in T20 cricket all season. It slides away down that hill for 4. Now Glenn's under the pump, and that forces a bad ball from Glenn. And I think Luff is probably, she's got 1 to deep mid-wicket, but she's probably feeling like she's missed out to not hit that for 4 too.
Well, she's been in exceptional form, hasn't she? You mentioned the numbers earlier, 250 runs, striking at above 150 in the Vitality T20 Blast. So you can just sense, I mean, she's such a classy operator, but she is definitely in that rhythm. She's found that groove, hasn't she, so far? Not only here today, but across competitions.
So that's cut. Smartly stopped at point by Campbell to ensure that there is no run for Holland, who is 41 off 24. She's come in at number 4, but she's already faced more deliveries than Sophie Luff, who opened, which kind of demonstrated the point I made earlier, which is Luff has had very little strike. Glenn just loses her run. One thing you might have picked up as youngsters there is look at Holland crouching in her stance here. Something a lot of the best players will do against spin. You want to get your eyes underneath the flight of the ball. Makes you better placed to judge it with that front leg nice and opened out, ready to pounce. And Holland has kind of munched this into a gap. It's a bit of an agricultural tennis cross-court forehand. Picks her up 2. Now that's a perfect example of the boundary difference. On the other side, that comfortably goes for 4, even whilst being a bit of a miss-hit. But on that side, 60 metres slightly uphill, it goes for 2. Gives that one more flight, Glenn. Cut straight at cover where Cooper does the fielding. Another tricky thing for Yorkshire today is they don't really have a 6th bowling option. So Somerset will know that they can really put the 5 under a lot of pressure, and Winfield Hill was pretty much got to squeeze 4 overs out of all of them. Holland gets this one again into a similar pocket, and they're going to run 2, and they're going to get back for 2 very comfortably. That's fantastic running. You'd expect nothing less of a partnership that Sophie Luff is in, but you've got to give credit as well to Holland, who, as soon as she charged the 2 and got through, immediately signalled to the Somerset bench, "I quite like a drink." And it's a well-earned drink as well that she will take in between overs. I think the Somerset 12th are using the rule of what is it? I've heard a few teams ask for forgiveness, not permission. And so the Somerset 12th has immediately launched on to get both batters a well-deserved drink. 116 for 2 off 13.
Yeah, really promising start this, isn't it, from Somerset? I mean, Sophie Luff batting, as you'd imagine, just ticking over at the minute. Niamh Holland has been the aggressor of the 2, and she has batted beautifully so far, especially with those boundaries, really looking to take the proactive option every single delivery, putting those Yorkshire bowlers under as much pressure as humanly possible.
Cooper back for more. She's gone for 16 off her 2. That's a dot ball to start. Got a 50th wicket in that game in midweek. A very valuable win for Yorkshire against Durham. Their first win since beating Lancashire in the 50-over comp back on the 29th of April. That's a long, long time to go without a win. 8 defeats and a washout. So that's miscued, but it will be just wide of Glenn. He'll field on the bounce. Good flight and guile from Cooper, who's remodelled her action over the winter. She's always someone who's quite self-effacing and can have a laugh at herself, and she said in a pre-season interview about it, "I've tried to learn how to spin the ball more, because that's my job." She's definitely getting a bit more dip and revs this season, just from the eye test. She's adjusted very well to life in Tier 1. So that's short. This is deliberately played over the head of square leg. Knew that even if it isn't hit cleanly, it will run away down that slope, and it does exactly that. That's clever manipulation of the field. So that's 4 more. Somerset flying along here. They're not far off 10 and over. And Yorkshire's 5 being cycled through as their frontline bowlers. And Winfield Hill doesn't have that 6th option to go to, which it can often decide a game. Full toss. And it's pummeled into that gap at Cow Corner. It's good fielding out there by Langston, covering across, means that it's 2. And there's plenty of applause, because that is 50 for Niamh Holland. What a knock. My goodness me. 30 balls, 7 fours. She has gone off like an absolute freight train.
She has. She's having a wonderful season as well, as we'll talk about following this delivery.
So that's straight at point. No run there.
Yeah, of course, this is more with the ball, but I mean, that career best that she got against Hampshire in what was a fantastic game of cricket. But she's really taken her game to the next level this season. You can just tell she's got a real confidence with her approach to her batting, her bowling, having the keeper up to the stumps has really benefited as well.
Doesn't quite get hold of that sweep. Again, we're going to see a lot of that when the bowling's from the Peasland Park end today. Sides trying to fetch the ball from outside off to access that short boundary. That's a relatively tight over from Cooper, particularly when you think that this is the time where Somerset would be dreaming of acceleration. 7 off it, so 6 overs left, 123 for 2, and this really is go time for Somerset now. I mentioned the strike situation earlier on. It hasn't really evened out in any way, shape or form since. Sophie Luff has 28 not out of 27 balls, so she's faced 27 of the 84 deliveries in the match so far. So she's faced 31% of the balls bowled. As Olivia Thomas starts with a long hop, but Luff strikes down to long off for a single. An incredible role model for women's cricket in the West Country. I think sometimes the more deeper parts of her history with it get forgotten as well. She, of course, is a veteran from the KSL days. Somerset, back then you can broadly map it back to being Western Storm. And Luff, of course, was a key part of that side that were winners in 2017 and 2019, and now is carrying that legacy on. That's a full toss, and it's got away with that, Thomas. Just one out into the deep. Go down memory lane a bit as well. But the funny thing is back then Storm were one of the best sides around. They actually won more KSL games than anybody else. They won 26 from 36, but in the regional era, they never quite figured it out. In that 2020 to 2024 period, they never got out the group stage of the 50 over comp, the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy, and they never got to a Charlotte Edwards Cup knockout either. That's down the track. Great stop off our own bowling. They wanted one, but there isn't one there, so Yorkshire just putting on a bit of a squeeze here. 16 wins from 43 Flinty games, particularly struggling in the last 2 years of it. And in the Charlotte Edwards Cup, won just 12 from 27. But Somerset are on a resurgence this season, having a much improved campaign. So that's down the track. One hand came off the bat and trying to access more power. Good little spell this for Yorkshire without a boundary.
Yeah, they just needed something, didn't they? Just to almost wrestle back a little bit of control. The momentum was veering very much predominantly in Somerset's favour. But it has been as a result of some really smart batting from both of these two.
Goes deep in her crease. It's something she's done well today off the spin Holland. She'll get one out to deep cover. And you go right the way back as well. They were runners up in 2016, losing to the Vipers by 7 wickets as Western Storm, of course. But Luff wasn't just around in those days. She was very much an exciting up and comer. Down the track, loves to be off spin. It's a bit of a gimme ball, and it has managed to beat the desperate dive of Thomas. So a 4th boundary of the innings for Sophie Luff. Not going to miss out on something of a freebie in a delivery like that. So it's a good over for Somerset. 12 off it, 135 for 2. And again, lots of problems bowler-wise for Yorkshire, because Thomas has now gone for 29 off her 3. But she's probably going to have to come back at some point for at least one more over.
Yeah, I thought you made a really good point earlier with that lack of a 6th bowling option for Yorkshire. And even without Jess Jonathan today, Jonathan in previous games, previous formats, would almost be the go-to to relieve a little bit of pressure for the home side. And of course, without Jonathan, she's ineligible for the competition. You don't have that luxury of having someone who consistently, over in, over out, can provide that control. So this will be difficult.
Albeit it was 8 off the over because they'd already added the 4. So I think Yorkshire, particularly at the moment, don't need us as commentators adding another 4 that isn't there. Makes room this time and has carved this away between short third and backward point. Great acrobatic fielding out there, though. I mentioned it is slightly uphill and it's a longer boundary, and that gave the chance for the dive to not be in vain. Some tag team work out there, and they have come through for 3. Cooper getting a word of advice from Winfield Hill. Mentioned Somerset have beaten Yorkshire twice already this season. Once was the opening game of the season where Luff was superb. Played a truly dictionary definition of a match-winning innings. She's getting more runs out here. She's getting 4. Fancy footwork against the spin, turns it into a low full toss. That's classic Sophie Luff. She's so confident coming out at you as a spinner, and in her own way, quite quiet as a personality, but she's quietly very intimidating to bowl to, I'm sure. She's down the track again, taking one hand off the bat and thumping this away through a similar spot for 4. Well, Cooper trying to hang it outside the off stump a bit more that time, but same result.
Yeah, again, it's really, really proactive batting this from Sophie Luff. And earlier on, Michael, you mentioned about just crouching, getting underneath the eye line, basically, when you're playing the spin. As a spin bowler, one of the most frustrating things is when someone consistently takes you down the pitch.
Steps across, looking to slog sweep this time. There's a bit more luck about this one, but it is a third four in the row for Luff, who's throwing the kitchen sink at this, and why not? That has a hint of fortune about it, in truth.
It does, but just look at the scoring rate now. She's gone from 28 from 27, has raced along to 46, and Somerset almost 150 now. So it's really come at a rather opportune time with plenty of batting still remaining.
Down the track, that's a full toss, and such is the luck of the game. You bowl a decent ball that beats the batter in the flight, it goes for 4 through third, and then you bowl the ball like Cooper did there, and she gets away with it, and it goes for 1. But this over's shaping up as a very expensive one. It's gone for 16 already, and Holland is facing up here with license to thrill. That swept hard out towards that shorter boundary. It runs away so quick, but even on a longer one probably would have been the same result. So it's a truly destructive over. The 150's up for Somerset. It's the most expensive over of the innings. 151 for 2 then, with 4 balls left.
Yeah, these are going to be very, very difficult to manage as far as Yorkshire are concerned, because these two look in ominous nick. And the one thing that I would say about the spin bowlers so far, the radar hasn't quite been here for Yorkshire today. A lot of full tosses. When they haven't been full tosses, they've been far too short in length, very hittable out towards deep mid-wicket. So just something to be aware of here. Just trying to find that more consistent patch, even if it's just for a couple of balls, land it in a good area. At least try and get it on target.
Well, Cooper had been one of Yorkshire's more economical bowlers today. Before her last over, went for 20, as Luff this time has picked the gap at deep cover. Oh, that's so smart. Comes down the pitch. It's not even a bad ball from Glenn. Goes inside out, and it is yet another 50 in a run-soaked campaign for Sophie Luff. He will be so determined to drag Somerset to a finals day. Mention that history, KSL winner in 2017, 2019, but Storm never got to a knockout game after that, nor did Somerset, of course, last season. But if Sophie Luff's got anything to say, they'll be there or thereabouts this season. But Luff might have gone here. Big appeals from Glenn. Umpire Exton unmoved. Leg by signalled. Sophie Luff's 50, coming off 36 balls with 8 fours. And it's interesting as well that the last 23 runs of it came off just 9 balls as she accelerated. This time it's Holland accessing that short boundary. She's cut that off about middle and leg, but she knows if you can pierce that field, you're looking at a downhill slope. It's all in your favour. And that's another thing you would say, which is, even though it's not their home ground, Somerset's batters have played the angles of this short boundary a lot better than Yorkshire's bowlers and fielders.
Most definitely. And a lot of them have actually been quite low-risk shots. The fact is, the outfield here is lightning quick, and they've just used that to their advantage. They're not looking to go aerial every single ball. They know that it just zips off this surface. So it's incredibly good batting, and, well, it's changed the angle of approach here for Sarah Glenn.
Short and pulled out into one of those pockets. They want to. I'm a little bit surprised at this stage of the innings, with 8 wickets in the tank, they didn't try and come back. But they will settle for 1. The partnership has gone past 100 as well. These two came together at 58 for 1 at the back end of the 7th. So in just 58 balls, they've added more than a century to the total between them. Down the track, Luff And might be caught, is caught. That's an excellent catch. Low, taken not far off the ground. It was going to need something brilliant to get rid of the Somerset skipper, and it is. So Sophie Luff gone for 51 off 38, 161 for 3. This pair added just over 100 partnership between them, 103 for the third wicket, but finally Yorkshire managed to separate them.
I mean, that is a tremendous catch, isn't it, out in the deep, and that's a huge partnership to break at this stage. Of course, we mentioned the fact that Somerset have got plenty of batting still remaining. We're going to see one of their finishers here in Alex Griffiths, who was initially carded down at number 7, so a quite clear promotion up the order for today, someone who again can start scoring very quickly from the word go. But just a word really on that innings from Sophie Luff, quite brilliant, has done a great job there in almost just setting the foundation initially and then having the ability to catalyse it and keep going.
And you know what, as well, a lot of players would have got quite frustrated by that first part of the innings where she's personally only scoring it around a runner ball and not getting a lot of strike, but you just knew that wasn't the way that she thinks about the game. You know, one of those players that really is able to just put her individual game out of her mind entirely and just keep looking at the scoreboard and be aware that Somerset were building a very strong position, and now Griffiths can come in with licence to thrill. One of a number of really exciting young players in this Somerset team. So that's out to deep square for 1. And that is a bit of what you see when you look through this team. Skelton at 23, Griffith at 22, Jones at 20, Hazel at 21, Holland 21, Odgers 23, Anderson 22, Harris 19, Barnes 19, Vercusick 20. There's quite a lot. I mean, it's still very young, to be clear, as a squad profile. Luff sort of the standout at 32, or one of the standouts. But a lot of them have got a lot of Tier 1 cricket under their belt from last season. Some of them had loans as well to get experience in Tier 2. And what, you know, you're not necessarily seeing a team where there's been dramatic transfer movement in the summer, but just a team where everyone's that little bit better and that little bit more used to being at this level. And Somerset, particularly in T20 cricket, had a goal of being a different animal this season, and they've certainly been that. 1 for 17 off 3 for Langston. She's been Yorkshire's best bowler. She's back on here for a last over from the P-zone park end, which starts for a boundary down the ground. Well, this wasn't really timed. This was all muscle.
It was, and that also is a prime example of just how quick the outfield is, because it zipped off yet again. Even though it plugged slightly on a slower outfield, probably doesn't go for 4, but just went, didn't it?
Yeah, it's slightly scorched earth here at Scarborough with the amount of sun we've had in recent times. Solstice day, of course. And the weather's been matching what you'd expect for this time of year. 1 down to long on. They wanted 2 off a slight misfield from Blackwell. They won't take it. Just to contrast that, Somerset in T20s last season, 1 win in the Blast, a tie, 2 no results, 10 defeats. They lost their first 8 completed games. They were basically out of the Blast at the halfway point. That short, thrashed away through the offside. And again, they think of 2. A little bit surprised they're not tempted to try and come back. This season, Somerset in the Blast, 4 wins, a tie and a defeat leaves them very well placed in 3rd with 19 points, just 1 point off the Blaze, who are top. Well, this time I think they are going to look to come back for 2, but 1 again is all that they will get. Reminder that the T20 Blast has changed this season, so it's 3rd versus 2nd place 1st in the final. In the, oh, beg your pardon, the other way around. 4th versus 1st and 2nd place 3rd. So Somerset have only got to finish in the top 4 to get themselves in final state. Yorkshire with 5 losses and a no result at Durham, leaving them almost all but out of it, as that could be more runs. It will be more runs. Just helped around the corner, very deliberately done. And that is 4 for Holland, who is absolutely flying here.
She certainly is. That was a whisker away, though, from just nestling into the gloves of Lauren Winfield Hill, who was there at full stretch. But there is that air of innovation from Niamh Holland. And that is the shot of someone, again, who is just feeling themselves with the bat in hand. She's definitely deserved it at this stage. She moves into the 70s, but just looks a very, very different cricketer in 2026, and it is wonderful to see. Let's not forget, still just 21.
Yeah, very much a local from Yeovil. Played club cricket for Street. She's trying to help that on its way. Clever change-up from Langston, who comes out of what's been a difficult day for Yorkshire's bowling lineup with the most credit. And don't forget, she also took a magnificent catch in the deep as well to get Glenn that wicket in removing Luff. So 18 overs gone, 173 for 3.
Just while on the subject and theme of club cricket, I do have quite a few friends down in South Wales, so it'd be amiss of me not to mention Alex Griffiths' childhood side, which was, of course, Britain Ferry Steel. That's down in Neath towards Swansea way, product of the Wales pathway.
Well, see, this is an interesting thing because Somerset have been doing what they can to try and attract players like that, understandably so. But there's also a game within a game of that transfer market where Glamorgan, who are coming up into Tier 1 to become the 10th team next season, are desperate to make sure that players like that end up in their catchment pool in the longer term. And speaking to various Tier 2 counties looking to develop players, of course, you're trying to feed them into Tier 1, you're trying to help them be professional cricketers. But it creates these interesting dynamics in terms of how you try and build a squad. As New over starts with a full toss, and Erin Thomas has to cover around the corner to keep it to 2. Thomas, who's been living off her fame recently following her forfeit for losing the Fantasy League and having to be a flag bearer at the Men's Roses match after the women's game a couple of weeks ago, getting a high five off Liam Livingston. She was in the runs for Yorkshire in their win against Durham. That's a big heave across the line. That'll be a leg by. Tough for Olivia Thomas this. You've gone for 31 off your 3 and you're back on. It's only her 3rd appearance this season. She was Yorkshire's player of the season last season. Oh, that's a horrid delivery. It might be a no ball, but the batter did come down the pitch and Holland puts it away with a minimum of fuss. And I think she's got a little bit lucky, Thomas, there. The movement down the track and the judgment that it's maybe just dipping under waist height.
Even so, it's easy pickings, isn't it? Especially for Niamh Holland. Now moves on to 74.
Yeah, Yorkshire's spin bowling today has just not quite been at the level they'd want it to be. They've been ruthlessly punished, though. Going to try a quick single in the ring here, and even with the work from Thomas, will manage to escape through for a single. Somerset winning by just 1 wicket, chasing 179 to win when these teams met at Taunton on the 11th of April in the 50-over format, and then when they met in the Blast, it was Somerset who took victory by 39 runs on the 27th of May. Sophie Luff with 50-plus scores in both games, and she's done that again today. Winfield Hill fancied a run out there, and just from her reaction, I wonder if Winfield Hill thinks that if she picked that up cleanly, it was a run out. She's looking down at the ball with body language of great frustration, as if she should have got Griffiths here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think straight away the reaction told you everything you needed to know. Even so, remains just a dot ball.
Shorter from Thomas. Risked being early on it and had to hold herself back. Griffiths for 1, so end of the over. 182 for 3, so 9 come off it. In terms of damage control, for the penultimate over of an innings, it's not too bad, and where at one point it seemed not quite certain, but firm favourites that Somerset would get 200. Going to need a big over from the last to get there now.
Well, they are indeed, but even so, you get 10, 12, you're into the 190s, even high 190s if they can get 14. So this is going to take a real combined batting effort against, let's not forget, we've spoken predominantly here about Somerset's batting, but the bowling's been really good this season as well.
Yeah, they are a team that are a relatively well-oiled T20 unit at the moment, albeit they are missing Annika Leroyd in the way that everybody is due to no overseas in the County Cup. And this Blackwell to close out. Skied up, should be caught, and is caught at cover point. So a wicket for Blackwell. It was the time of the innings where had to go for it. 182 for 4. It's a simple catch for Amelia Oliver.
Certainly is, yeah, but as you just said there, Michael, it's go time, isn't it? Everything has to go at this stage. You've almost got to throw the hands if it's in your hitting arc, and that was just a prime example of that. So still 5 deliveries remaining here for Somerset. They'll be looking for, as I said, at least bare minimum of 10. But even so, it will take a very good batting display to get near that today, as we see the next Somerset batter come into the middle.
Yeah, Chloe Skelton, who hasn't had a lot of batting in the blast. 28 runs at 9. It's a difficult role often coming in that lower middle order in T20. After Griffiths was gone for 10 off 9. Caught by Oliver off Blackwell. I mean, it's one of those, I can't say I know this off the top of my head, but just from the eye test and having commentated on every Tier 1 team this season, Somerset must be the youngest team in the comp. Or they've got to be close. I mean, you look at an 11 like today, we were running through it earlier on. This is Blackwell. Bit of extra bounce, that Scarborough bounce.
So we actually did some maths on this. I think they're the second youngest. I think Warwickshire are the youngest.
Yep.
Mathematically speaking.
But I guess it also depends on what 11 you put out.
Yeah,
on
of
day,
course,
right?
yeah, 100%. Yeah. But the average squad age at Warwickshire was like 22.
Slightly mistimed. And taken. Neatly taken by Langston, her second catch of the innings. Well, it's that time of the innings that demands it, and Skelton falls on her sword honourably, trying to access the short boundary, and Ines Blackwell is on a hat-trick as Katie Jones walks to the wicket.
Well, the funny thing here with Katie Jones was actually she was just warming up in wicket-keeping pads. So she just had to get batting pads out. I'm not sure if we would have picked that up. But initially she was doing some warm-ups, obviously, with the gloves. She had the slightly lighter pads on and now has had to go out to bat. So I imagine the MO here will just be get Niamh Holland on strike. Just rotate it, get a single, get your established batter. The lion's share of these final deliveries.
Maybe slightly depends on what ball she gets, but yeah, I'm broadly in agreement. You've got someone at the other end who's on 75 off 43. Gone at not far off to a ball, Niamh Holland. Wondering if it's a new list A best for her. Oh, again, that little bit of Scarborough bounce. You always get it here at both ends. But that's another example. So when you're bowling uphill from the P-zone park end, it's sort of a tennis ball bounce. When you're bowling from the Trafalgar Square end, it's that real bounce and carry that gets quick on you and big on you because of the slope. Slow ball from Blackwell, completely deceived. And it's dropped. It's dropped by Oliver. Well, that is one that you would expect to be taken, and it's a fortuitous way to get off the mark for Jones. Well, that should have been a third wicket in the over for Ines Blackwell, who, for all the carnage we've seen earlier on in the piece, is actually closing this out very neatly.
Well, it has. It's been a marvellous over, hasn't it? That almost would have been the cherry on top. Here is Blackwell again then.
And this is straight to Oliver, who this time, well, funny how that happens, holds a much more difficult catch than the one she dropped off the previous delivery, so she'll feel a little bit better about life at the end of that one. An extraordinary final over where just 1 run was scored and 3 wickets were lost. So, regardless of Ines Blackwell's excellence, it does look like it will be a tough chase for Yorkshire, albeit a lot of conditions in the favour of the batter. Well batted to Neve Holland as well. She looked $1 million for her 75. 184 to win. A few more thoughts before we sign off mid-innings from Aaron Viles alongside.
Yep, completely agree, Michael. It is going to be a very difficult chase, but just a moment here to bask in that innings from Neve Holland. Confirmation it is a new career best in T20 cricket for the 21-year-old. Surpasses her previous best of 60, which came against Hampshire at the Cooper Associates County Ground last season. So finally that streak has been ended. The career bests both came against Hampshire. Now that career best has come against Yorkshire, but this will take one heck of an effort. I mean, the key thing for me today will be the spin attack. Yorkshire spinners didn't have the desired impacts, whereas you look at Somerset, they've got some really good options with the likes of Harris, Liv Barnes with the left arm finger spin, you've got the right arm orthodox of Chloe Skelton. That for me will be critical. If Yorkshire can almost take a similar level of attack to the spin bowlers, they're in this game. If the spinners just begin to apply that pressure, really tighten the screw, I do think this could be very, very tough. But we'll have to wait and see.
We'll see you for the run chase very shortly. 184 to win for Yorkshire against Somerset.
Vertu, official partner of Yorkshire County Cricket Club. Vertu, official partner of Yorkshire County Cricket Club.
levers, and she's the sort of player that can clear the boundary. All that Yorkshire will be wanting is for her to stay there for as long as possible as she strikes that one aerially over the cover boundary, and a beautiful shot. And when she plays those shots where she keeps her shape and hits through the ball, there's no more destructive batter than Amy Campbell. The issue that she'll have and Yorkshire will have is stay there for at least 5 overs.
Yeah, most definitely. And that last shot has brought about a change in angle here for Chloe Skelton. Just hangs outside the off stump, splices away, running down with real velocity towards the deep third boundary. And that will be back-to-back 4s off the bat of Amy Campbell. A solid start here for the home side.
Yeah, and that shot there is one that I often say to young girls is swing the bat hard, even if it comes off an edge, you've a chance of getting 4 runs. And that was a perfect example. It came off the outside edge and ran down through third man for 4 runs.
Well, Campbell goes again, drills that down the ground. It's half stop, really. And well, they come back for a second. Campbell was thinking about it. Sent back immediately by Erin Thomas.
Yeah, Erin was too busy watching the ball all the way down there. You should be running that first run fast and then turning to look for the second. She was stopping and looking as she was running down there. So that's probably a lesson for her, is that, you know, run that first one fast as if there is going to be 2. If you turn and see that there isn't, you can still say no.
It's a very offside heavy field, this, isn't it, with regards to the fielders in the circle. Bit of protection on the leg side as Thomas faces off against her first delivery.
Yeah, I quite like this idea of a left-right hand combination to open the batting, because it does make the bowler have to keep thinking about what line they're bowling. Skelton adjusted very well on that last ball to the change in stance.
Well, that one will be swept away, but only swept as far as the fielder at fine leg, and Yorkshire have lost their first. Erin Thomas will depart for a duck. The home side 9 for 1, and that will be a welcome start for Chloe Skelton and the Somerset bowlers.
Yes, and that's a poorly executed shot. The ball was probably in the right area to play that shot, but poorly executed, and as a result, then it's gone straight to hand, and Somerset definitely in the ascendancy here.
Well, that is an ideal start, isn't it, for the West Country outfit. We just take a second look on that one. Was a little bit too short for that shot. Thomas wasn't quite fully committed to really giving it the bat handle, and it just spooned up in the air. So that will be the ends of the opening over. Yorkshire are 9 for 1 as Sarah Glenn, wearing number 3, comes out to bat at number 3 for the home side.
Yeah, and disappointing for Erin Thomas. You know, if she'd run 2 on the last one, she wouldn't have been on strike for that last ball, you know, and there's a combination of things often that contrive against you when you're playing this wonderful game. But Amy Campbell getting ready to face the bowling coming in from the Trafalgar Square end.
Yeah, we'll provide you with some score updates as well upon the conclusion of this over. Of course, we were one of the first games here today. So that one from Campbell just tickled around the corner. So Campbell will remain on strike here against Alex Griffiths. Bowling this first over from the Trafalgar Square ends of this historic venue. That one in the slot for Campbell, tries to hack it away on the leg side. Finds the fielder patrolling there at short mid-wicket on the bounce.
You can see that Amy Campbell is just looking to hit through every single ball. And as long as she executes it well, then that will definitely be what Yorkshire require.
Here goes Griffiths yet again to Campbell. That one a lot fuller, almost in the block hole, well worked away towards what would be wide mid-on. Just the solitary run then from the opening 3 deliveries in this second over. And as for Sarah Glenn, Jane, I mean, we saw her up in this advanced batting position. Do you imagine that she'll almost take this as an opportunity to be a pinch hitter, just go for those early boundaries? How do you see her setting about her particular innings here today?
Well, it'll be interesting to see how she starts, because for her, she wouldn't be very happy with her bowling. Even though she's taken 2 wickets, she'd still be a little bit frustrated that she was hit for a few more runs than she would have liked. So it'll be interesting to see whether she now focuses purely on the batting and tries to, as she hits that through the covers towards the marquee, they look for 2, but there's just 1 run there as it's well backed up behind the bowler's end. And interestingly, Yorkshire have done this now for 2 spin bowlers. Obviously, Jess Jonathan not playing today, but batting higher up the order than she's had opportunity to do so in domestic cricket. And now the same for Sarah Glenn, as that's played back. Good ball by Griffiths and just played back to her by Amy Campbell. And Jess Jonathan, of course, you know, she hit 2 centuries in a row.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, wow, this player can bat, and yet she's not really had that opportunity. And it'd be nice to see Sarah do something similar.
Campbell strides down a couple of steps, comes off the inside edge, and that will be a dot ball to round out the second over. So Yorkshire 11 for 1, a very good start there for Alex Griffiths, who has struggled a little bit with the ball so far this season, especially in the Blash, just the 1 wicket so far with an economy rate of 9.35. So it's almost settled into her groove there, just conceding 2 runs. Yes, didn't pick up a wicket, but a very solid start there from the Welsh player. Yeah,
very good over. You know, I think she just kept it in the right areas and just put pressure on the batters, just so that that build-up of pressure will start to come from the scoreboard. She knows that she doesn't have to overstretch or over-try, just needs to keep it in the right areas.
Well, this will be an early change of bowling then. Sophie Love really almost just utilising all of the options at her disposal. Be a little bit of a left arm finger spin here, courtesy of Liv Barnes. Here she is then, bowling up first to Sarah Glenn, who rocks onto the back foot and punches that one perfectly through point for 4. An excellent shot there from the England's international.
Yeah, super shot. You know, she's hit 1 through the covers when facing the bowling coming down from Trafalgar Square, and now she's facing the bowling coming up the hill slightly from Peasant Park, and just guided that between the fielders out to the cover boundary.
Well, how does Barnes respond? Targets that one into the hip there of the right-hander. Really good battle this for me is going to be the left arm finger spinner against Amy Campbell to what is the longer side of the ground here in Scarborough today. Michael mentioned it earlier, 60 metres, that is the hit out towards the Popular Bank. Campbell, as we know, a very, very dynamic run scorer, loves hitting those early boundaries. Let's see what this battle has in store. Campbell this time just flays that one through the offside. 0 stopping that one, not even any protection out there. The fact is the fielders here for Barnes down at wide long gone and deep mid wicket. So that for Campbell right there, even though it's slightly aerial for a second, Jane, a very, very useful scoring shot.
Yeah, very much so. And you can see in these first few, just watch this ball.
Well, that one has gone for 6. I can tell you that with 100% certainty as it bounces into the Popular Bank. An almighty hit there from Amy Campbell for 6.
I was just going to say, you can see from the first couple of balls of this over and adding that third one in, just how quickly it is to score on this wicket that has been produced. It's a super batting track and you just need to stay there.
Well, Barnes under some real pressure here. Might be even more pressure. Beats the dive of the fielder, and it's another boundary here for Amy Campbell, who has raced on to 24 in a flash.
Yeah, and we all know she's got this talent, and I can't reiterate enough, she can clear this boundary, she can hit these delightful shots. We just want her to make the right decision to every ball and not give her wicket away.
Well, that one a full toss, and that one is going for 4. This has been an almighty over, courtesy of Amy Campbell. Completely taking the attack to Liv Barnes, whose first over goes for 23. Yorkshire now, in fact, it's gone for even more than 23. It's gone for 27. Goodness me.
Yeah, that's a tough first over to come back from, thinking as you go into the game as well. If you've gone for 27 off your first over, and you know what great striking from Amy Campbell, who's now Yorkshire ahead of the required run rate considerably. They're scoring at over 12 and over.
I'm just thinking here, I'm pretty sure that Yorkshire are 34 for 1. I think the in-ground scoreboard is incorrect, so apologies there for the confusion. That was a 23 run over from Liv Barnes. It's just the scoreboard to our left here has counted that as 8 runs when it should have been 4. Sarah Glenn now plays that out towards the covers for 1. Even so, Liv Barnes, one of the most economic cricketers last season in Tier 2, did ever so well when she went on loan to Kent. But right there, well, that is not the welcome to the crease that the left-arm finger spinner would have wanted.
No, and just talking about the scoreboard, it would be, they need to change it quite quickly, because it can give everybody a misrepresentation of the game. Yes, there should be 35 for 1, not 39 for 1, but at the same time, that needs to be altered.
Well, that one turned into a full toss. That will be 4 more. Effortless, really, from Amy Campbell, who just helps it on its way, deposits it out towards the empty space in front of the marquee. And this now really turning into an incredibly fruitful start, not only for Campbell, but of course for Yorkshire as well.
Yes, and what was a great start from a Somerset point of view has now changed in, it's starting to swing a little bit, put pressure on the fielders.
Oh, well, that one has just been whacked down the ground. Will be 1 more to add there to Amy Campbell's tally. She has motored along here to 34.
And the scoreboard, I'm pleased to say, is now altered in the ground, so it is correct now. It is 40 for 1 at this stage.
Just going to say that would have caused some controversy towards the end if it got a little bit tight. As Griffiths now bowls to Sarah Glenn. Well taken single between the two. Yorkshire now 41 for 1. And what inspired change as well this is, bringing Amy Campbell up the batting order, of course, predominantly this season, batting down at number 6. Really has been an incredibly smart change, that. One which is paying dividends and then some.
Yeah, and I think bringing her up, as that's a wide, so that'll have to be re-bowled, it just gets the team off to an absolute flyer. If she gets going, it's an absolute flyer when she gets going, and this will be starting to give the girls more confidence, in the dressing room, because they've seen that the boundaries have come quite easily, and Sarah Glenn's hit 2 boundaries as well, so that's going to give them more confidence.
That one very full, well dug out there by the left-hander. Just be a single down towards long on. But I'll tell you what, this really is a tremendous start for Yorkshire. Just as a little bit of a comparison here, I know it's not the end of the power play, we've still got a little bit to go before then, but Somerset, as we mentioned, got off to a really good start with Davis, of course with Sophie Luff herself. They were 53 for 1 after 6. Yorkshire already closing in on the team 50. So that'll be another single there, courtesy of Sarah Glenn.
Yeah, and good running. You know, it's good to hit the boundaries, but what you've got to try and minimise is the number of dot balls. You know, I tried to have a quick look. I think it was somewhere in the region of 32, 34 dot balls that Somerset faced. So if you can minimise those, then that gives you a definite advantage, because there are 120 balls to be bowled. So if you only get one off them, that's 120, but you've already hit boundaries, so you're already starting to reach that mammoth total of 184.
Now change of bowling here from the P-zone park end. It will be Erin Vertu, the Croatian international. Very impressive seam bowler. Watched quite a bit of her at Edgbaston. Certainly has plenty of control with the right arm seam. Here she is then, bowling to Sarah Glenn. Glenn straight away opts to play that one off the back foot for one.
Yeah, and I like that. It's punched out into the offside and it's fielded inside the circle, but there's an easy one there, and they were both agreed, you know, as soon as it came off the bat, they were both running and both through before the fielder had even picked the ball up. And sometimes players can be a bit static out there and they need to be looking for those singles. She's coming round the wicket now.
Really took the pace off that one.
Yeah, that one floated out of her hand, didn't it? Much slower. Probably a back of a hand job.
I don't mind that though. I really don't, because with Campbell you can see she's going for route one here. Even though it is the power play, she's got one directive here, and that is to basically score as quickly as possible. So maybe just try and tempt her there. Yet again takes the pace off, and that has spooned straight up in the air. This should be a catching chance, and it will be taken. We mentioned it's taking pace off. Really, really smart. Easy catch there for Jess Hazel. And Somerset have got their second. It is the huge wickets of Amy Campbell for a barnstorming 34. Yorkshire now 45 for 2 in this, the fifth over. And that came courtesy of some very smart bowling from Erin Vertu.
Yeah, good bowling from Vertu, and a nice little cameo, as you say, from Amy Campbell. It's such a shame from a Yorkshire point of view that she couldn't stay for just a few more overs and really put the total on the board to really put some more pressure on the Somerset fielders. But young Oliver coming out now to open her debut knock in Tier 1, I think. She played Tier 2 last year.
Did indeed. Big opportunity, isn't it, for Amelia Oliver. Proud as well, I imagine, for those at Harrogate as well. Of course, a venue where we've commentated for Yorkshire Cricket TV.
Yes, I think, you know, any young player that gets a debut, there's a number of people that have to be thanked, really, not the least of which is parents running them around when they were younger and supporting them at home. And it feels like there's a bit of a sea fret just come in. The conditions have changed considerably out there.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's gone a lot gloomier, hasn't it? Well, here is Oliver against Vertu. And that's a strong start. Just pushes it really through the covers. Plays that one. Not looking to overhit the cricket ball. Just gets Sarah Glenn back on strike.
Yeah, nice shot that. Just leant into it and just pushed it past the diving fielding of Becky Hodges in the circle. It's like a fog, like a mist going across the ground.
That one a lot wider. Yeah, a little bit of a breeze as well. We can actually feel it here in the commentary box. Really has been a very, very quick change of conditions here. What was once bright sunshine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the ball starts doing anything different.
That one's slightly too wide and tempting, really. It's been carved away. And such is the nature of the outfield. As soon as it beats the 25-yard circle, chances are it will go to the boundary for 4 runs. So a good way to end the over there as far as Yorkshire are concerned. Sarah Glenn moves on to 14. And the team 50 comes up. Yorkshire are 50 for 2 after 5.
Yeah, nice shot from Sarah Glenn once again, just finding the gap between the fielders and bringing up that 50. And I don't think run rate's an issue at the moment. What will be an issue is wickets.
Yep.
So both teams will be reasonably content at the moment. Yorkshire will be pleased that they're keeping up with that run rate required, but Somerset will be pleased that they've chipped away and got 2 wickets already, as we've got 1 over of power play left.
We have indeed. Some nice shots there of the marquee, which, Jane, as you were telling us, is rammed today as a result of a Father's Day event, which is wonderful, isn't it? Great to
lovely.
see.
Yeah, and great support from Scarborough Cricket Club as well.
So a change of ends here for Chloe Skelton, bowling up first here to Amelia Oliver, who plays that one handily through mid-wicket for 1. Yeah, just to go back to that point about required run rate right now, it's a tickle under 9, so it's nothing too unmanageable. But the key is wickets, because not only does it stifle that run rate, also provides additional pressure. As Glenn there goes on the sweep, just gets it away from the fielder. Will be a single out towards deep square. Niamh Holland doing the fielding, and well, Niamh Holland herself, I imagine we'll see her bowling in the middle overs. I mean, she has had a wonderful campaign in the Blast. Formed a really good duo with Katie Jones up to the stumps as well.
It's good when you're looking at the women's game to see the partnerships that are evolving between bowlers and wicket keepers, and pairs of batters and pairs of bowlers that regularly are effective in the game.
Well, it has been one of those dynamic duos, as you describe it. Really has been very bountiful for Somerset this season. It's Oliver this time. Just a little shuffle down to meet the pitch of that latest delivery. 1 more run down the ground. But a very solid start here for Yorkshire. Of course, catalysed by Amy Campbell. She was the destroyer-in-chief. Somerset, though, with that wicket of Campbell, just wrestled back a little bit of control. Sarah Glenn just chips that one up down the ground. Couple of bounces for another single. But even there, you can just see now with Campbell back in the hut, has just stifled that momentum for the home side. Either way, though, by the end of the power play, Yorkshire are actually ahead of where Somerset were. We mentioned it beforehand, the West Country outfit 53 for 1, Yorkshire 54 for 2, so 1 run better off, but of course at the same time 1 wicket worse off in comparison to the visitors.
Yeah, and I often think in power play it's about how many wickets you lose as much as anything else. Obviously you've got to score runs, but if you're losing 2 wickets, then that could be costly, more costly.
Well, I spoke about this, didn't I, Jane? And it's right on cue. It is Niamh Holland. Niamh Holland with a bit of right arm seam from the P-Zone Park end. She has been ever so impressive this season. And for me, the big thing with regards to Niamh Holland, which I'm looking out for today, is the wobble seam. She used that ever so effectively against Hampshire, just bowling with Jones up to the stumps, causing all sorts of problems for the Hampshire batters. And, well, she shouldn't have an excuse not to have any confidence heading into this spell with the ball. Just come off the back of a career best in the first innings of the game of 75. So here she is, bowling up first to Sarah Glenn. That one hacked away behind square. Should just be a single. In fact, Glenn alert to it and turns it into a 2. Good running there between the pair.
Yeah, very good running. Yeah, I'm actually concerned about this fret. I can see white sort of clouds almost going low across the ground. I've never seen this before. So it's I think they call it a sea fret, and it's like a fog type thing, but very different.
That one in the air and taken at points. Sarah Glenn will become the latest Yorkshire batter to depart, and Niamh Holland, who's been a little bit of a golden arm this season for Somerset, strikes almost immediately in this, the 7th over. Yorkshire 56 for 3. We spoke about the loss of wickets potentially being the downfall in this run chase. Well, Somerset now have got their 3rd one.
Yeah, and this is the big problem with scoreboard pressure, that the minute you're out there, you think you've got to go full on from ball one, and sometimes your execution of your decision making doesn't quite materialise, and Sarah Glenn wasn't quite over the ball there. Just her weight was back and she didn't middle the ball, and it went straight to the fielder. You know, good catch, very simple catch, but Sarah Glenn trying to do the right thing, and I think both her and Amy Campbell, you know, have tried to do the right thing. No criticism there, just lacked the execution when it came to it.
Yeah, it was a little bit too tight, wasn't it, for the cut shot on that occasion. Just spliced it really towards the fielder at backward point, as we now see the Yorkshire captain stride out into the middle. Lauren Winfield Hill, someone we're used to seeing opening the batting, of course, for the home side. So she will be the big wicket, won't she, for Somerset straight away. She'll be the one being targeted, and if they can get her early, could just provide a little bit of morale blow or boost, really, couldn't it, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, I think this is the key wicket for Yorkshire.
Well, here is Holland.
From a belief both for Yorkshire and for Somerset. If Somerset get her, they'll think, right, we're almost through them, because they won't know some of the other players. I think there are some players that can come out and play innings, but from an opposition point of view, this is the big name that they need to get out, and they'll feel that they're through the main batters if they can pick this one up.
Winfield Hill there will get off the mark very comfortably through the offside. Yeah, just looking at the remainder of the Yorkshire batting unit, of course, you've still got Alice Clark. She was ever so impressive on her debut.
Yep.
Rebecca Duckworth as well. Liv Thomas, who, as we saw last season, could certainly bat. Beth Langston as well for a little bit of lower order hitting. Inez Blackwell.
Yeah, there's certainly some batters to come, but they won't be as well known to the Somerset players as Lauren Winfield Hill.
Well, Holland this time to Oliver. Chops that away to backward point for no run. And I tell you what, this has been an excellent over from Niamh Holland. Goes for just 3 runs, and at the end of the 7th over, Yorkshire are 57 for 3. We'll also have a quick change here in the commentary box. I shall make way for the marvellous Mr. McCann, and well, while we just do a little bit of a switch, Jane, we'll leave you with some words of wisdom.
Yeah, and Somerset definitely in ascendancy here. 3 wickets in the power play, and they'll be really looking to push that on now and just try to get the key wicket of Lauren Winfield Hill, who's out there. So batting with the inexperience for Tier 1, Amelia Oliver, and they'll just look to try and keep building it. The key thing when you're the batting team is you've got to just take it as deep as possible and just keep get as close as possible. And as far as run rate is concerned, they're not massively far off. They've just got to make sure they don't give any more wickets away. As I welcome back Michael McCann.
Starts with a back of a length delivery that was nicked and was not far away. Well, that is a bit of luck for Amelia Oliver from the first ball of the 8th. A flash away for 4. In fact, I beg your pardon. We did our commentary switcheroo with 1 ball left of the 7th. So that is the final ball of the 7th over. 61 for 3 after 7. An over that brought 1 wicket, and from the final ball of the over, almost a second.
Yeah, I was thinking either the scoreboard's not right or we're not right because it hadn't changed. The overs up there still say 6, but we had an issue with the total at one stage when they kept putting the wrong total up. So
I tell you what, it's a miracle. We can see the scoreboard. The way the weather's going, which do have a little bit more information on what you're getting on your screen. For those maybe unfamiliar, it's Ha. A sea fret. It's a cold, damp sea fog that typically rolls in from the North Sea, affects the eastern coast of Scotland and northeast England, mostly during the spring and summer months. That's suddenly made everything very cold as Winfield Hill is ducking down to get underneath the flight of the spin and crashes it down to long on for 1. Nice flight from teenager Lola Harris, product of Trowbridge and Bath. It's quite extraordinary looking conditions, quite misty and a little bit awkward if you're out on one of the deeper boundaries in terms of picking the ball up, as that's swept neatly by Oliver's. No one behind square on the leg side. Big chase for square leg to the longer boundary. Will be hauled in. They will run through for 3.
the sprightly Winfield Hill came sprinting through for 3 there, telling the youngster there was 3.
As fit as ever. Look, if speaking as someone who's in their 30s and trying to stay fit, Lauren Winfield Hill's Instagram is a great place to go for advice. She's doing everything she can to squeeze the lemon. The second year of a 4-year contract for Yorkshire, and she's by no means ruled out playing on beyond that. Rocks back and just guides this down to the cover boundary for 4. One of the classiest shots we've seen all day. Went right deep in her crease and just picked it off down the hill for 4.
Yeah, what a lovely shot that was, showing her class there, just guiding it backward through extra cover. Just a super shot. Weight in the right place, feet move well, and the back came through nice and straight.
A conventional textbook forward defensive. I think if anything sums up the English summer, it's what we've gone from, which is applying sun cream, 20 degrees, plenty of humidity, to plenty of people reaching for a jumper. As this mist and comes over the ground. Plenty of flight on that one, and she does love a sweep, Winfield Hill. She's only just got that over square leg for 4 more. So Winfield Hill looking unsurprisingly busy here.
Yeah, nice shot that, and it did just evade the square leg, but that's the risk you take, and it was deliberately hit in the air and hopefully high enough over the square leg, which it was, and it ran away for 4 runs. And with that, then the short square is now being moved out to deep square leg.
Do you have any memories of playing in conditions like this?
No, I don't. That's why I'm sort of fascinated by it. You know, I've played in many grounds by the sea, but I've never seen a sea fret.
So that's guided through the covers. This time will be 1. Hasn't quite pierced that gap in the way she did previously in the over, which comes to a conclusion there. It's one of the most profitable of Yorkshire's innings so far. In fact, the second most, apart from that 3rd over, which Campbell smashed for 23. So end of the 8th, 74 for 3. That over has brought 13. At this stage, Somerset 76 for 2. Albeit Amy Campbell, who hit 34 off 18, is gone, and so it's on this pair to rebuild. Great to have your company wherever you are across the world for this one. For those of you maybe unfamiliar, the 2nd year of this brand new County Cup. The 2 sides we're watching here at Scarborough fighting for a quarter-final spot. And if you can win that, then you're into finals day, which comes at the back end of August. New over from Holland, who was superb with the bat. And this time drops a little bit too short. Fielding is good, covering around from cover point. Nice quick release, but they were always getting to there if they were purposeful. And they were purposeful. So Winfield Hill on to 13 off 8.
Yeah, great shot out to that deep point boundary and ran the first one really quickly, turned and just went, knowing that they were going to get 2 runs there. And this will be a good lesson for the youngster as well, batting with Winfield Hill.
Slow ball and just helped around the corner. Full toss, didn't quite execute correctly. And all of a sudden, Yorkshire putting a bit of pressure on in this over. 6 off 2 at the start of it.
Yeah, and already the scoreboard ticks over to 80, and another 4 runs and you're under 100 that you require. It starts to feel a little bit more achievable, once you've got a big total to get. The minute you can get down to 2 figures, you start to chip them off a little bit more easily.
Straight at point. An interesting dynamic as well with Winfield Hill coming in the middle order, because since this Yorkshire team was quote-unquote formed in the regional to county evolution in a fully professional sense, I make it she's played pretty much every innings as an opener. And I don't know whether it's hot. It was a hot day, it certainly isn't now, but it was pretty hot. 20 overs of keeping. Thomas got runs in midweek. Campbell can go out and blast. But Winfield Hill has dropped down the order and she's causing chaos in at number 5, and she's going to get 4 more here, just kind of forced off the back foot. Very powerful strike. Kind of a bit of an inside-out cross-court forehand in a game of tennis. Force that through with the bottom hand. So this over is getting quite expensive.
Yeah, I quite like, I'm enjoying watching Lauren Winfield Hill bat down the order a little bit. It's a bit like when Jess Jonathan comes in and all of a sudden the game goes on another level.
This is a full toss. Winfield Hill trying to flick this away. Has given deep square leg a big chase. So that will be 2 more.
And also I quite like Amy Campbell at the top of the order, because if she gets going, then she really does take the game away in the first few overs.
Well, that's a funny evolution, because in the regional era, Campbell batted in the top order of T20 cricket a lot for the Sparks. And she came to Yorkshire and she was used almost exclusively at number 5 last season, very, very successfully, but then hasn't found the same success at that position this season. Was that short? Kind of powered away down the hill. Winfield Hill is looking in some touch this over. She's taken 16 off that over, all off her own bat. And that has motored Yorkshire along. And now suddenly, thanks to that, going at exactly 10s after 3, at 10s after 9, 94-3 off 9 then. And Winfield Hill has got 27 of them. And she's only faced 13 deliveries.
Yeah, that was an unusual shot for Lauren Winfield Hill there, because she's normally quite stylish. That was muscled away. That was just like pure muscle. I'm just going to bring my bottom hand in early and just help it round the corner. It was a very effective shot, and it did the required job. But it's maybe this is another evolution of LWD. LWD? Where did that come from? LWH? Nearly as bad as my addition, sort of. I'll add a different letter in rather than anything else.
Now, Oliver actually hasn't faced for a little while here, so she's just got to recompose herself, the 18-year-old, on her Tier 1 debut. She's just turning away into the onside. Want 2, but it's hit too well. Out to that sweeper to give the possibility of 2. One thing Somerset do have the luxury of that Yorkshire did not have is a sick frontline bowler. There's quite a lot of Tier 1 cricket I've commentated on this season where you could argue that actually ended up being one of, if not the key difference between the teams. So they do, between the 6 that they've used so far, have the luxury that if someone isn't quite having their day, they don't have to find a way to get a full allocation out of them. As Winfield Hill this time is flicking away for one I mentioned earlier on, Sophie Luff's career span right across eras. Winfield Hill certainly someone in that same kind of bracket, 100+ England appearances. Has been appearing in a few places on Wisdom podcast duties, as well as a few programmes looking back to that 2017 World Cup win. So Oliver sweeps straight at mid-wicket.
And in your research of the C-fret, the Ha, have there ever been any games affected or stopped or...
Good question. I hadn't got that far. I was starting with the very basic journalistic principle of what exactly is it? Because it felt like it was probably something that was pretty sea influenced. So Oliver's coming down the pitch, and I must say, I instinctively thought she was stumped. So maybe she's just got her back foot back in there. Umpire Ashraf says she survived. What is sure is that was some fantastic wicket keeping from Katie Jones.
Yeah, very good cricket. I think she didn't look to have lifted her back leg, but could be wrong there. Then she sort of looked down at it.
But I thought maybe it's dragged out. So that's reversed, straight at short third, but it's managed to beat short third. It's got past Davis, who is desperately chasing back, but chasing back in vain. It's an outfield that gives plenty of value for shots. Well, that really hurts Somerset, and you have to feel for Skelton, because she's bowled an excellent over here, and that did not deserve to go for 4. She'd gone for 2 or 4 before that ball.
No, you're right. You know, you could have said she almost picked up a wicket and then got punished with a bounce that evaded the fielder, basically.
We're respecting a good delivery, and it's a good over from Skelton. It goes for 6. It could have been so much better than that. So at the halfway stage, Yorkshire right in the run chase, 96 for 3, and in fact, they've got more than half the runs they need. You could make a case that Yorkshire have edged their noses in front. However, it's been a theme for Yorkshire this season of falling short in close run chases until they successfully chased 4 days ago. Durham 193 all out, having had to fight back from 1, 2, 3 for 8, and Yorkshire got there with 15 balls to spare, winners by 6 wickets. Erin Thomas with 65, Lauren Winfield Hill with I should say with 67, Lauren Winfield Hill with 65. And I know a couple of members of the Yorkshire coaching staff were hoping that getting over their chasing hoodoo in midweek in 50 overs might help here in the T20s, as Winfield Hill will get 1 out to that slightly shorter boundary. And that Ha is now, and it's one thing that you don't fully see from our commentary box, we're a bit high, but just walking around the outfield while yourself and Aaron Files are on commentary just down by the Popular Bank, when you're at ground level, that is quite awkward to try and judge a catch out on the boundary, so could well be a factor here. That's nicely bowled, hanging it outside the off stump there for Kusic.
Yeah, and Oliver trying to hit that one outside the off, but didn't take a foot across, so that's how that went past her. I think there's a few things that she could do to help herself hit that one.
1 for 6 from her first over. She's tried a little slower ball there, has completely deceived Oliver and got her LBW. That's so clever from the Croatian. Erin Verkusic using her change-up, using her variation to get a second wicket of the innings, and Oliver, who never quite got going on her Tier 1 debut, has to go for a runner ball 15.
Yeah, very clever ball there. The slower ball really did just evade her, and she was pretty adjacent there to the crease, to the stumps.
Yeah, we're very much not in line here today. We're sort of at a deep, wide, long off up in the commentary boxes named after the late, great Dave Callaghan, one of the voices of my youth covering Yorkshire games. He, of course, loved this place. But just looking at the replay that you yourselves can also see at home, that is crashing into middle and leg. A pretty simple decision, as out comes Alice Clark. Lancashire Loney, wouldn't be too surprised if that might get made permanent one day, but for now she is borrowed from the other side of the Pennines. This is just her second game for Yorkshire. She's yet to get out, 32 not out off 26 on her blast debut in an unsuccessful chase against Durham, and then 9 not out 4 days ago in the 50 over win at Durham. And now it's up to her and Winfield Hill to carry this on, but you do sense particularly with no Maddie Ward as well, and a Yorkshire middle or lower order that has sometimes struggled for runs this season, that this chase feels extremely Winfield Hill dependent from the home side's viewpoint. Here's Vertu. Great keeping from Jones to gather that one. It's taken a flick off something, or it would have been a wide. Oh, well, okay. That's,
I think Lauren persuaded them there.
There you go. Well, no, it wasn't Lauren. It was Clark. Clark. That is, you don't see that every day. Clark has gone to signal the wide, and the umpire has then promptly signalled the wide. So Vertu might have thought for a second she got away with that one. That's a much better delivery. Gets a dot ball in now.
Yeah, it's a little bit village, wasn't it, that, you know? We'll both stand and look at the umpire until we threaten them into a wide.
Well, Erin Vertu for a second might have thought she got away with it. And she had.
I did think it was wide.
She had. Well, it was down leg and it didn't come off anything. Vertu now has to wait a little longer. 20-year-old. Product of Thorverton and Exeter CC. Came through the Devon pathway in Western Storm Academy. It's another variation. It's another lovely variation from Vertu.
It's got a good float on it, hasn't it, that slower ball? Obviously, she's using a similar action. She must be
either... Back of her hand. She's been working
It's either back of her hand or just, you know, you can push the ball down into your palm of your hand and bowl exactly the same pace, etc. So there's a number of ways of bowling that slower ball, but she's certainly got a good one there.
That's a bit more of an effort delivery. Nicely lent on drive from Clark to get off the mark. And that is the end of a successful over and an excellent over from Vertu. Some fantastic change-ups. It goes for just 3. It also brings a wicket, 99 for 4. I was on Detective Inspector Sherlock Holmes pre-game because her name gets pronounced about half a dozen different ways in every game that she plays. And so I made a beeline for Erin Vertu when I got to the ground, and in front of her teammates tried to get to the bottom of this. And it's fair to say that she was somewhat reluctant to give any clarity because she herself was not able to give any definition on how to pronounce her surname. And did, and I quote, say to me, "I'll just have some fun with it." And I said, well, Erin, as a professional broadcaster, we endeavour to do a bit better. And after persuasion from Charlie Dean and various other senior players in attendance that, in fact, can you pick one and stick to it, we ended up with Vertu. Vertu as in Kew Gardens and Zik as in rhymes with sick. So there you go. For those unfamiliar across the county cricket circuit looking to get it right, that is the players' wishes. Albeit as explained, we got there in the end. She was relatively reluctant, as that's through for 1 from Clark from the first ball of the new over. Sometimes you can get a situation where a player has the anglicised version of a name and then a version in that native language, which for Vertu would be the Croatian, but I can't say I've experienced many times in 10 years of professional broadcasting where the player has just said, I don't really know.
Oh wow, that's
but
amazing.
anyway, we got the colours nailed to the mast in the end, and Vertu it is. At the other end, pressure is being neatly built by Somerset, but they have brought Barnes back here. She went for 23 off her first. This is nibbled away for 1.
And the 100 came up in this over as well for Yorkshire. So now it will feel slightly more achievable. The total score that is required of 184.
Although the one thing that intrigues me here is they didn't need to bring Barnes back, but they've clearly decided that this time the game is what suits well. It's a bold call from skipper Luff, as that's away for a single. That's not to say it's the wrong call, but when you've got an attack with 6 frontline bowlers in it and one bowler goes for 23 off their first, most of the time you wouldn't see them return.
Yeah. If you've got 6 bowlers, yeah, you definitely would probably think, no, we won't. use.
Gives that a bit more flight.
That should be another wide.
That will be a wide. Barnes very much not a local to Somerset. From Margate, came through the Kent pathway, one of the great pathways of English women's cricket. But again, kind of one of those situations where Tier 1 cricket takes you in different directions. That's pushed through quicker and flatter. And we've seen that shot a few times from Lauren Winfield Hill, kind of forcing it off the back foot. They're going to come back for 2.
Yeah, good running by Clark. She ran the first one quickly, turned quickly, and was already on her way back.
She was picked out as Somerset's T20 wildcard this season in the ECB Reporters Network preview for a repeatable action. England under-19 honours and variations. I beg your pardon, that's Lola Harris, getting my spinners mixed up. Commentators are human beings, we make mistakes too. They're of course both 19-year-old spinners, but very different. Barnes back for more. Goes on the reverse, Winfield Hill, but doesn't really get hold of it at all. That was nicely adjusted by Barnes, who just held it back.
I'm always surprised why she would do that when there's a ring of fielders around that leg side, when she can hit it so well straight down the ground.
Winfield Hill this time has got it up over the covers, and she's going to get that away for 4 down the hill. So we're seeing that shot quite a lot today from Winfield Hill, getting inside the line and forcing it through that cover region. It's a boundary off the last ball of the over. You would have to say until that ball, the gamble of bringing Barnes back for more had actually worked very well. But that last ball 4 means that ultimately the over's gone for 10. 109 for 4 off 12.
Yeah, and that last shot was the sort of shot I'd like to see Lauren play more than the reverse laps and reverse sweeps that she often goes to, because she hits that so well. It was just a glorious lofted drive over the covers for 4 runs.
Let's whiskey around the other grounds scores in round 3 of the County Cup, where there's definitely some potential upsets brewing. Tier 2 Middlesex, one of the strongest sides in Tier 2. So new over starts by Harris being cut out to deep cover 1 for 1. They're up against Warwickshire. Middlesex 144 for 3 off 16 at Radlett against Warwickshire, so giving themselves a good chance of an upset. Hampshire, primarily thanks to Maya Bouchier, are doing their best to avoid an upset. They're 134 for 2 off 15 against Glamorgan. Blaze against Durham. Durham are 119 for 4 off 14. Essex are 113 for 5 off 13 against Gloucestershire, in danger of an upset there against the Tier 2 side. As again, inside out from Winfield Hill. That's been the theme of this innings against the spin, getting inside the line and finding that pocket, and she's done it again.
Yeah, super shot. That's exactly a replica of the one she just played in the previous over, where she just goes aerially over extra cover for 4 runs. Great shot.
Lancashire well placed to avoid an upset against Tier 3 Buckinghamshire. Tilly Kesteven and Emma Lamb have both passed 50 as they've piled up 200. I beg your pardon, Eve Jones and Tilly Kesteven have both passed 50. They're 215 for 5 with 2 balls left there. All those teams fighting for a spot in the County Cup quarter-final. No change in the field. Does Winfield Hill go inside out again? As Harris this time comes right arm around. Well, that's a bit too short and pummeled into the gap at Cow Corner. Winfield Hill is on a roll here, and they've got to find an answer, Somerset, and quickly.
Yeah, and that's just 66 runs required now off the, I think.
Yeah,
that's
your
my
maths
maths is right.
Maths is spot on.
You know, and all of a sudden the total starts getting much smaller.
And that's 4 more as well through square leg. Well, that's a perfect sweep. Rolled her wrist on it and it flies away down that hill. And it's starting to become even more clear here, which is that if Somerset don't get Lauren Winfield Hill out, Their County Cup campaign is over.
Sorry, I was sniggering because you're saying it's starting to get more clear here, and I'm thinking I'm struggling now because the sea fret's coming in, and it's not clear at all.
That har, if you're fielding particularly out on that west stand, is really quite difficult now.
It's like a fog. It's just like...
It's pretty thick.
Yeah.
It's slightly less bad towards the pavilion side of the ground, but we are not a million miles off. I genuinely do wonder if this gets any worse, at what point the umpires might have to consider this. But now on we go. Rocks off the back foot and should have been stopped at extra cover. It was just a little something behind it from Skelton to make sure it doesn't go for 4. Tidying up in behind is Holland. And that is 50 for Winfield Hill. What a knock it has been. 50 off 23 balls for Yorkshire's captain. Coming in a pretty desperate situation in the middle order after Yorkshire lost 3 quick wickets. But she goes to 50 off 24 balls with 10 fours. It's extraordinary scoring. She's gone at more than 2 a ball. She's gone even quicker than Holland or Luff went at. She's almost single-handedly dragging Yorkshire back into this. And now Yorkshire are favourites. It's Winfield Hill this time, down the track, meets it on the half volley, and this will be cut off, coming around to a left by Jess Hazel. But they do get back for 2 more. So it's another expensive over. 126 for 4 then. So that over has gone for 17. So Somerset have got to have a think here, because Barnes has gone for 33 off her 2. Harris has gone for 30 off her 2. So you would be surprised to see either of them come back on. Verkuzic has got 2 left. Holland has got 2 left, as does Griffiths. Skelton has 1. But I imagine Luff would want to save Skelton right to the death.
But one of Barnes or Harris is going to have to...
No, because of the 6th bowler. They both had 2 each, so Luff does not have to go back to either of them. And you would be a bit surprised if she did now. Now, if you're Clark, surely you've got to think, just get a single. With Winfield Hill in the flow and the rhythm that she is, there's no need to do anything more. That's a low full toss, jab down. Didn't really mean to get it there, but Clark will get a single regardless. So it does look like this. The miss is just in the last 10 seconds or so cleared off a touch more.
Well, they often say that the sun can burn through a sea fret, and I think that's what's trying to happen at the moment.
Sun and the sea fret have been having a good old tussle in the last 5 overs.
Sorry if anybody's bored with it. It's just very unusual conditions that we're experiencing that I've never seen before.
And the cameras, we can see the pictures that you're seeing at home. The cameras don't quite show you just how dense a fog it is, as that's short on Winfield Hill. Gets this out to deep cover for 1. Yorkshire ahead of where they'd want to be, but they'll feel like they're very dependent on Winfield Hill here. Somerset will know if they can get Winfield Hill out, this game changes in an instant.
I blame John Dodds as he walks past.
There's Holland. Superb with the ball, sorry, superb with the bat, and she was superb with the ball there as well. Neve Holland with a wobble seam, part of England's T20 World Cup side back in 2023. Now looking to carry on that good form with the bat into the ball as conditions all of a sudden just start to look a little bit more normal. Well, there's been a word there between Jones and Holland, and Holland sort of sent Jones back there, which is curious to do after a delivery like that was a dot outside the off stump. But that's what's happened. So this will be more runs. They want to. It was a wise decision to not come back. It was sharp work out in the deep from Skelton.
Yeah, great calling. You know, that's exactly what you need to do, is push as if it's going to be two, but have a look. And I think Clark there just said to Winfield Hill no, and she was absolutely right. It was well fielded out on the boundary, and the ball was released quickly.
Got some people asking about if it qualifies as bad light. Wasn't quite that bad, but it was getting quite bad. Winfield Hill's trying to flick this in the gap for one. She hasn't quite managed it. I think had it got much worse, it was just on the point where umpires Ashworth and Exton might have thought about it, but well, just after it hit the worst it got for a couple of minutes, it pretty much eased off. That
was why I asked if in your research you'd seen an away, because I actually thought it would have affected the outcome of a game.
Nudged back by Oliver, who won't get a single there. One of the players some of you watching may be slightly less familiar with, plays a club cricket with Harrogate CCC as Dr. Jane Powell takes a well-earned rest, and Aaron Vowles settles in alongside me. He's been on pathway camps for the England under-19s. She's someone who's fiercely ambitious, Oliver. She got 39 not out of 32 on her debut in a win against Headingley against Derbyshire in the last season. And she got 61 in the Metrobank One Day Cup Tier 2 away at Gloucestershire as the half somewhat returns. With 6 overs left, 130 for 4. That was a tight over, just as Somerset needed it, that went for just 4 to rein things back a bit. 6 overs left, exactly 9 and over needed. It's difficult to see Yorkshire not getting there if Winfield Hill were to bat through, but if Winfield Hill were to get out here quickly, by contrast, that equation changes very, very fast.
Yeah, it does indeed. She is the wicket right now, isn't she? As far as both of these teams are concerned, Somerset will be desperate to see the back of the Yorkshire captain.
Here's Vertu back on, and she's flayed away by Winfield Hill. 4 more through backward point. Not quite bowling to the plan, the young seamer.
No, it wasn't the right delivery for that field, was it? Realistically, didn't have the protection behind square on the offside, so easy pickings in the end for Winfield Hill.
2 for 9 off her first 2 for Vertu. But pressure on the 20-year-old in this over after the early boundary.
It's brought about the change of tactic here. Jones has donned the helmet, standing up to the stumps here. Takes pace off again and swept in front of square. That will race away for 4. Wonderfully executed. And another welcome boundary for Yorkshire.
Just over pitched on the slur ball. It's the same back of the hand one that got Amelia Oliver LBW, but as soon as you miss that length against Winfield Hill, she's very comfortable sweeping against anything that's not absolute elite pace, and it makes her very hard to set a field to.
Yet again, it's pace off. This one won't go to the boundary. There is a sweeper out towards deep point, and Clark thinks about coming back for a second. I think that was the wise option, but we're speaking there about the asking rate here for Yorkshire. I mean, a terrific start to the over. You get that first boundary, you get a second one, and suddenly these remaining deliveries, there's not as much pressure.
Since Lauren Winfield Hill has come to the wicket, she has scored 63 of the 83 runs that Yorkshire has scored. She has scored 3/4 of the runs.
Wow. Well, this time it's Clark. Just looks to almost club that beyond the bowler. Can't quite do so.
Now, I'm sure Winfield Hill was just coming down to Alice Clark and saying, look, any shot on the onside that isn't straight at short fine leg is a single. That's all I need from you. If you're Somerset, you can also frustrate Winfield Hill by just keeping her off strike for a little bit.
Well, that one Fuller, well worked down towards long on for 1.
Of course, Somerset had heartbreak in this competition last season. Both sides got 124 for 9 at Exmouth against Durham. Charlie Dean with 4 for 12. Hodges with 39. Katie Levitt for Durham with 3 for 13. And so we had a champagne super over.
Well, here is Vertu to Winfield Hill again. That one too full on that occasion. Really good riposte there from the bowler. And that will be the end of the over.
Well, the over's gone for 10, but when you think of how it started for Somerset, it could have actually been a lot worse. And in that super over, Somerset got 8 for 2. Heather Knight and Hodges both got out to Maddie Villiers. And then it was Bess Heath against Charlie Dean. And Bess Heath won the duel. And Durham went through before being knocked out by Surrey. In the blast, Somerset finishing 8th out of 8. And in the Metrobank 5th, 6 wins, 6 losses, 2 no results. They were unlucky. They were just behind Surrey, who finished 4th, because Surrey had a tie as well. They started with 4 wins from 5, Somerset, but tailed off a bit. 2 wins, 2 no results, and 5 losses from their last 9, left them just about outside of the qualification spots.
Well, here is Liv Barnes from the Trafalgar Square end.
This is a gamble. None for 33 off 2.
Straight away, Alice Clark there going for the reverse. It's something we saw on her debut for Yorkshire. Very enterprising cricketer, someone who likes to utilise both the conventional and reverse sweep to great effect. Goes for it yet again, beats the effort of the keeper Jones. It won't beat the effort of the fielder though. Really, really smart work there from Ruby Davis. Prevents any further runs being scored. So just the 1. But of course, at the same time, that does bring back Lauren Winfield Hill to the crease. She has been absolutely brilliant today.
Yeah, when she's in this flow, she kind of looks like she's playing a different game. You can see that class of 100+ international appearances.
Well, here is Barnes then to Winfield Hill. Again, she now goes for the reverse. Doesn't quite get the desired connection or indeed direction on that one. Will be a single nonetheless.
Well, so far, the gamble, and it is a gamble, bringing Barnes back, has worked pretty well.
Not only that, they've had a slight change in the field here. So Bex Hodges has just come to 3rd, just inside the circle, in case Clark wants to go for the reverse instead. Flat bats it beyond the bowler. Another single down the ground, but as you said, Michael, unless this goes for a boundary, this has been a tremendous over from the left-arm finger spinner.
Yeah, don't underestimate the boldness of the decision. Assuming that it doesn't turn out Griffiths is injured, they didn't need to bowl her here, Barnes.
Big question here, does Winfield Hill go on the attack? Not quite. Should just be a single. There was protection down there on the onside.
So this over's gone for 4 off 5. Now at this point, it's also not... Yorkshire wouldn't really prefer Clark starting the next over on strike. I think Clark might fancy the short boundary here.
Well, there you go, she does advance. Plays it behind square leg. Just for a single, so Clark will remain on strike. So 16 overs have gone. Yorkshire 145 for 4. Clark on 9. Winfield Hill, well, she has been the talisman.
Well, I was going to say, there's almost 2 different games going on here. And it's no disrespect to Alice Clark. This is a young batter making her way, but Clark has 9 off 16. And Winfield Hill has 65 off 32. And you think of as well the partnership with Oliver, where Oliver made a a runnable 15. So Vercusic's going to finish off here. She's got 2 for 19, and great credit to Sophie Luff for bringing Barnes back there. She's gone for 5 off the over, and it's 4 on her figures because 1 was a leg bye.
Yep. In hindsight, definitely the correct decision. Here is Vercusic then. At first to Clark. And that right there, you'd argue, is probably perfect for Yorkshire. Straight away, we'll bring the captain back on strike. Winfield Hill with 65 runs to her name. And of course, from a Yorkshire persuasion, they'll be hoping that he'll be and counting after that. Already seen Niamh Hollands top scoring with 75 in this game. Does feel, though, just given recent history for Yorkshire, Winfield Hill will need to take this very, very far.
Got 65 off 107 against Durham in the 50 over format 4 days ago. Winfield Hill still adjusting the field here, Somerset. But in 5 blast games, she actually hadn't got more than 23, which she got against Surrey. So this has been a return to T20 form for Yorkshire's captain.
Here she is against Vercusic, goes inventive. This may have gone straight to the fielder, and it will be caught. Erin Vercusic is having a fantastic game here for Somerset, and that is the wicket they so desperately desired. Lauren Winfield Hill departs for a thoroughly entertaining 65. Yorkshire now 1-4-6 for 5 in this, the 17th over.
Well, the 20-year-old has been brilliant. She got Amy Campbell when Campbell had looked so dangerous. Also picked up Amelia Oliver with a slow ball, and now gets the wicket of Winfield Hill that quite possibly decides the game in Somerset's favour. It is an outstanding innings. She scored almost exactly to a ball, Yorkshire's captain. Comfortably her best knock in the T20 format this season. But now it's asking the lower middle order to come out and score at ballpark 10 and over to win it, and that is a big ask.
It's a very big ask, but at the same time, there are still batters to come here for Yorkshire. Got 2 specialist batters in the middle as Rebecca Duckworth now makes her way to the striker's ends. Liv Thomas, as we said, can certainly give it the long handle, and Beth Langston as well. Someone who, right here at Scarborough, has scored some handy lower order runs. So the game isn't done, but for Erin Vercusic, what a fantastic, fantastic role she has played here for the visitors. Here she is again, striding in with plenty of purpose. And Duckworth immediately will get off the mark with 1.
Well, it's coming of age sort of stuff. Performance like that. He had a few games on loan at Glamorgan last season, but is still fighting. This is her first season of establishing herself at this level, and these are the kind of performances that really earn your trust of your captain. Important to say, it's not come out of nowhere. She's been very good throughout the blast block. 9 wickets at a strike rate of 11 and an economy rate of 7.5.
Well, here she is to Clark. And another dot ball.
She was chatting to me pre-match once she'd finally told me how to pronounce her second name, about just getting used to the pressure being at this level with crowd. She's talking about the fact that until kind of starting to break through in the last year, she'd only really played in front of a sizable crowd once before.
All the pace taken off that one. Will it beat the fielder? Yes, it will. As this one goes down towards the marquee, it's deep backward point. Duckworth tries to convert it into 3. Will just remain 2.
Yeah, there was 2.5 there.
Yeah, exactly.
But you admire Duckworth's thoroughness. I mean, that's what Yorkshire have to do at this stage. The only real game she said she played in front of a crowd before that was 3 years back in a Lashings match to celebrate an anniversary for Exeter.
Here she is again to Clark. That one very full. Turn backward of square for 1. Well, I'll tell you what, she has been terrific, hasn't she, today, Michael? Not only 3 wickets, but 3 pivotal wickets, which you could argue have probably swung the momentum firmly in Somerset's favour.
3 for 24 of her 4. 150 for 5 off 17. And the reason I mention that particular story is I remember that day Those from familiar, Lashing's a sort of globe-trotting team of legends that play fundraising fixtures. Curtly Walsh and Courtney Ambrose were next to me, and they saw Erin, it was a 17 or 16-year-old Erin Verkusic bowl, and the first ball they saw her bowl, they both turned to me and were like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, Erin plays for Exeter, Croatian international, etc., etc." They were like, "She will go far."
Here is Barnes to Clark. Clark striding a couple of paces down the wicket. Will just be a single.
And I know they watched her bowl and then came across to her after the game and gave her a few little technical pointers. But they said for someone at that age to have such good technical fundamentals and rhythms of bowling, and even then she had a couple of the variations you've seen today. So this is someone that is developing at a really rapid rate. There's a lot of exciting skills there, and as you say, she might have decided this game.
Duckworth this time decides to shuffle down the track. I mean, that is quite the stamp of approval, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Curtly Ambrose and Courtney Walsh.
Yeah, it's very rare that I would bring up anything related to men's cricket when we're ultimately commentating on a game of women's cricket, but it really demonstrated to you even back then, she was in the Somerset Academy already at that point, but the esteem in which she was held by some of the greats.
Clark this time goes on the reverse. Little bit of an appeal there for Jones. Will have a try at the non-striker's end. I'll tell you what, Clark would have been struggling there. Just to add a little bit further as well with regards to Erin and the Verkusic family, Zach, her brother, is also on the Somerset Men's Academy, so certainly plenty of talent in that family. It's Duckworth now. For a second I thought she was going to go aerial on that one. Instead just hacks it away in front of square for what should be 2. And indeed it will be 2. Clark slides the bat successfully.
I need 2 a ball, but realistically they're unlikely to get 2 a ball for 16 balls doing that. Someone's got to step up and hit some boundaries here for Yorkshire.
It feels like it has to be this ball, doesn't it, from Duckworth? Just spoons that back to the bowler, really.
But this goes back to what we said. It's sort of been 2 innings almost of Campbell and Winfield Hill and then everybody else, albeit Glenn actually looked quite fluent for her 18.
Oh, that one just, I think, falls short of Liv Barnes. But I'll tell you what, yet another incredibly useful over there from the left armour. Got off to a really, really tough start in this game. Her first over went for 23, but she has battled back valiantly. And you'd probably say at this stage of the game, Somerset really beginning to turn the fortunes in their favour.
Well, you're absolutely spot on that Campbell took her for 23, but a second over also went for 10. So her last 2 overs at the pressure point of the game have actually only gone for, if my quick maths is right, a run a ball 12.
Yep.
Which is exceptional from Liv Barnes. So none for 42 or 4 all told.
Well, here is Niamh Holland from the P-Zone Park end, bowling up first here to Clark. Clark has chipped that up slightly, just goes over the top of the fielder. A little bit of a pursuit on there, and it's one which will be won by the ball. Great start to the over there from the left-hander.
Yeah, it's got to happen now for Yorkshire, really. 25 off 11, still above 2 a ball needed. Can these 2 give themselves a manageable chase off the last?
Changing the field as well. I believe that deep square leg has now come into the 25-yard circle. Holland under a little bit of pressure early doors. And that one may have just been squeezed through the gap for 4 more. Back-to-back boundaries for Alice Clark and for Yorkshire. And that really has now got them off to a wonderful, wonderful beginning to this penultimate over.
Well, how about the wrists on this? It's the wrists that allow her to guide the ball, thread it through point rather than out to cover for what would have been just 1.
Well, this is interesting now. 21 off 10. That is the equation. Pace taken off, looks to be whipped away. And I tell you what, very smart change of field there. Saved what would have been a single, because before then that fielder was out at deep square. So 21 off 9. What can Clark produce here? Advances down the track. That one's spilled by Jones, and it'll go down as a wide as well.
19 off 9.
Yep. Well, that's the other key thing there. It's an extra delivery that has to be bowled.
So this over's gone for 10 off 3. All of a sudden, the pendulum swings back. We said Yorkshire needed to find a boundary or two. The old London bus is what quote.
Well, how does Duckworth approach this now? Against Holland. Try something creative. Doesn't get any bat on it, however. That has beaten the dive of the fielder. This will go down as buys. 4 more valuable runs here for Yorkshire. It was enterprising from Duckworth. Didn't quite have the execution that she was looking for. But you mentioned this earlier, didn't you, Michael? It's a pretty difficult outfield to actually pick up the bounce on.
Yeah, it's a little bit undulating. Jones signalled that might have done something in front of her. Vertu has done exactly what a fellow bowler should do in this situation. She's run up to the bowler Skelton just to slow her down. This is exactly what you need as a fielding team, just to try and reset before the over just races away from you. Now it's Somerset who've got to rapidly find their composure. Deep square leg goes out. So it's giving a very simple plan here to the bowler Holland, which is to bowl full and straight. There's a ring of 5 on the offside. She can't afford width on the offside.
This feels like a massive delivery, doesn't it? Just 15 runs required. Holland it is. Pace off, just about dug out there by Duckworth. Will be a single.
14 to win off 7. So it's already been a great over for Yorkshire. No matter what happens off this ball, they've taken 15 from it. Well, boundary here, and the final over suddenly feels very manageable. Field changing in all sorts of directions for this final ball. It's almost gone completely the other way. Everybody out on the onside, everybody up on the offside. Mapped out for the lefty.
Well, here is that delivery. Holland to Clark turns it into a full toss. There is protection behind square, so will remain just a single. Well, that has been a fruitful over for Yorkshire. Sets them up very nicely for these final 6 deliveries. 13 required. Yorkshire 171 for 5.
And the first choice for Sophie Luff is who's going to bowl this final over with a place in the County Cup quarter-final up for stake. Up for stake? Up for grabs. Skelton, and Griffiths and Harris, the options, but realistically it's Skelton or Griffiths. I would think it will be Skelton.
Yeah, I think you'd be right as well, just looking at the body language there. Speaking of those quarterfinals, we have actually had our first quarterfinalist confirmed. So Surrey defeated Worcestershire at Himley. So Surrey, the Brown Caps, are the first team in that final 8. And of course, well, by the end of these 6 deliveries, we may know who will be joining them if it doesn't end in a tie.
Yep, we could have a super over. Of course, Somerset lost on that metric last season. 13 to win off the last, 12 for a super over. And just to add to the drama, visibility slightly impaired by the Ha. Could you think of anything more Scarborough in terms of the conditions? Leg side short boundary with the downhill to aim for. So it's a little tickle on it from Clark. And that's a single. Duckworth onto strike. Duckworth, a player better known for being steady in the 50 over format, but has got to find the long levers here. She's 5 off 7. 12 to win from 5. Yorkshire finally got over the line in a run chase for the first time this season. In the 50 over format against Durham a few days ago. I think had a lot of close defeats trying to get over the line here. Down the track, Duckworth, and could have been stumped. And Jones misses the stumping, but crucially it is a dot ball. 12 to win off 4. Pressure swings right back towards Yorkshire. You need at least 2 boundaries to win this. Probably 3. As Duckworth comes down the track. This is out to long on. There'll only be 1. They don't even really think of 2. 11 to get off 3 for the White Rose. Seems to be quite a simple plan, but it's working well here from this final over. Skelton firing it in with a deep set onside field and a tight offside field. Goes on the sweep and is bowled. Clark is bowled, trying to improvise, trying to find that gap behind square on the leg side. 11 to win off 2. And Alice Clark has to go for 25 off 28. And Yorkshire need a bit of a miracle to pull this out the bag now.
Yeah, something tells me that may have just been the hammer blow here for the home side. This will be very, very difficult indeed, as I believe Beth Langston will be the next batter striding out to the middle here for the home team. Indeed it will be. I must say, slightly surprised that Langston didn't actually come in ahead of Rebecca Duckworth, just because of the style of batter that she is. As you mentioned there, Duckworth, someone who, very classy operator, someone who the longer she bats for, the more boundaries she gets. But in T20 cricket, especially towards the business end, in the death overs, you need to almost go from minute 1.
Well, realistically now, bar something extraordinary, this is a 6 and a 4 in either way round for a super over. Back-to-back 6s, and Yorkshire win it, or anything else, bar an extreme splurge of extras, and Somerset take the biscuits against Yorkshire for the 3rd time this season, and go into the quarter-finals, and a 1 game off. Dreaming of a finals day and silverware. Skelton, who's bowled a magnificent final over so far against Beth Langston. He's down the track, hasn't really caught this cleanly. It's through extra cover for 1. And that, bar something extraordinary from the final delivery, should be that. 10 to win off the final ball. And so long as Skelton keeps her composure and bowls a legitimate delivery, then this should be the game for Somerset. And this is the game for Somerset. Chloe Skelton seals it in style. Ice in the veins. And the Scarborough heart has proved lucky for Somerset. It's the Blackbird who get the better over the White Rose for the 3rd time this season. Langston is bowled. 3 wickets for Skelton, who actually ends up defending 13 to win from the final over with headroom to spare. Congratulations to Somerset, who are through to the quarter-finals of the County Cup. They've won this one by 9 runs.
Yep, full credit to Somerset there. They have defended that one admirably. Also, as well, full credit to Lauren Winfield Hill. That was a barnstorming, scintillating knock from the Yorkshire captain. Definitely put her side within a good shout of winning this game. It's just that the issues with the batting yet again appear to have just crept in towards those final couple of overs. Skelton, as you mentioned, ice in the veins, but for me, the real go-to bowler for Somerset today was Erin Vertu. Quite simply sensational. 3 massive wickets. The first one was of Amy Campbell, which was really clever bowling, took pace off, almost floated it into the hitting arc of the left-hander, didn't pick it, easy catch in the end for the fielder, and well, the huge wicket as well of Lauren Winfield Hill. So it will be Somerset who advance to the quarter-finals. Disappointing for Yorkshire, but they did take it a lot deeper today.
Yeah, you look at across the game, Niamh Holland with a T20 career best 75, Sophie Luff with a 3rd 50-plus score against Yorkshire this season. I bet the White Rose are sick of the sight of her. And in reply, Vertu magnificent for her free for, Skelton with her free for. And again, you see it's a bit of a trend at Scarborough, a good place to win the toss and bat first. Thank you very much for your company wherever you've been across the world. Thank you to Dr. Jane Powell, former England captain, for her insight and wisdom as always. Thank you to Aaron Farr Styles, alongside yours truly, Michael McCann. And thank you to the team at Badger and Coombs who've been in today, helping us out on production on a day where a few technical gremlins have done their best to throw us off, but we're delighted as always to bring you free cricket to watch round the world, powered by Vertu. We'll see you very soon, but here from Scarborough, your deserved winners by 9 runs are Somerset.
0-0.
Vertu, official partner of Yorkshire County Cricket Club.